For those of you who just missed that announcement, this is a Restream broadcast of the Sunday Ministry of the Flying Pig, Dreams Are Real, Part 2. I hope you enjoy, and thanks for being here.
This episode, my friends, brought to you by Dreams Part 2. Whether you're just relaxing, doing some chores, or stopping by curiosity because I trolled you this week, you're in the right place. Welcome to the Ministry of the Flying Pig, where we exalt the inner wild, the hedonism, the love that we find so dearly, but we do not pay attention to. And now, in the midst of this arcing down into the lower theta, I give you pause, and then I will begin the dissertations of thought for you, for me, for us all. For this is a discussion, not a rant, not a preaching, not a direction. We're here together, my friends. So glad you could be here. Happy Sunday to you. I am your minister at large, standing on his street corner today, and you're here to join us. Though the meditation is only just begun. Here are 5 minutes of quiet for you. Welcome, Paulo Gray. Welcome. If you'd like to study the information of the book, there's some links for you. This is not a technical difficulty. This is the beginning. This is the all. We are always with ourselves. Do not hesitate in the silence. We are here together in this quiet. Yes, because we are officiating over a quiet meditation for a couple moments till the binaural audio kicks back in here shortly. And do make yourself comfortable. Welcome, Happy Life. Welcome, Happy Life. I know you may not be used to the minister style this weekend, but happy Sunday to you. Happy Sunday to you. As you see, the cathedral is wide and large. I expect a good amount of us to be here today. And yes, yes, you wouldn't have heard me because I was meditating in a silence. And I just want to welcome you. And notice that I have a different set of avatars down there for you. And by the way, we welcome all affiliations and all beliefs, because today is about an idea of humanity, an idea of what we can be, an idea of what makes us us, and how we are all unified in being human. This right here, what is this, Paula? This is the ministry of the Flying Pig, and you've joined us in the midst of the quiet, which soon will end. Soon will end, I promise you. It's not a mistake. It's a matter of the center of a meditation where we drop down to our delta wave before the actual ministry begins. And here I will bring us back up as we I think are ready to head in for today. It's not really, it's church class is in session, yes. Except it's not a church so much as a ministry of personal release of the flying pig, which we ourselves, my friends, let me change us over to ministry mode. We, my friends, are part of the sentient life of love. I prayed home, says Paula Gray, and no church for her. Don't go anywhere near a church, and actually, we all carry our church inside of us on a daily basis, which is why, my friends, I offer this as an alternative to get our freedom inside and our unity. To knock on the doors of ourself and wake up. Yeah, that's right. And what is exactly going on here? Folks, this is, if you aren't familiar with what we do here, we expose ourselves to something a little more fun and relaxed. And we're going to go through the concept today. Here, let me get closer to the mic. I'm too far away. I'm too far away from the mic right now. I gotta back up on it. I gotta back up on the effect. Yeah. There we go. And by the way, what you just experienced is you came in a little bit after the initial start of the binaural meditation, which is fine. There's plenty to meditate over today. Plenty to perceive in that you and I, all share a dream state. And that dream state every night does many things for us. And I think today we're going to go deeper. In fact, I know today we're going to go deeper into that concept. We're going to go deeper into these ideas. And we're going to give credence to a whole new set of perceptions. And shalom, greetings to you, Abba. Thank you for coming, 7. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. It's a party in the house, by the way. And as the binaural audio brings us back up, I'm going to remind us of somewhat's really going on in the background, shall we? Because I think we should always remember that the influence is a little heavier than we probably expect it to be. But this is before the dreams, before we start talking about the dreams, before we start talking about what dreams do for us. No, I think we should remind ourselves that...
Cosmocast live 24 hours a day with, of course, local access periodically. The programming you're about to see will actually accelerate your evolution. 10 lifetimes per viewing.
Aha! I guess you all know that every one of you is watching a different show, and to provide better programming, we are watching you.
Watch! Where have you arrived in, folks? You are just about to land in the pews and the perceptions of the one and the only place where we free ourselves from the mortal coils daily, where we remind ourselves that there is so much more frivolity and strangeness in the world and in ourselves that can be freed, that most people would say they should deny. But we can learn something from, if anything, we can learn something from each other. We can see each other's differences as valued, as love, as who we are as humans, my friend. This is the one, the only, my friends, ministry of the flying pig, and let us exalt in our flying pigginess. Hallelujah, hallelujah. You know where you are. You know what time it is. Exalt the ridiculous in oneself. Exalt the freedom to think freely. Exalt the differences. We are one. Free flying pig. Altogether, we're one free flying pig. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And by the way, are you a little shocked? Are you a little shocked? Is this taking you a little by storm? Are you wondering what the hell you came here for?
Dinner with the burrito.
Yeah, no, it's not the burrito. If you want to talk about burritos, burritos are generally life. Life. It's a bunch of beef, little cheese.
Hey, babe. You're beautiful.
Yeah, I know, thanks. Anyways.
We don't want to control your mind. We just want to control your
Yeah, they want to control your mind.
inclination.
No, nobody cares about what you eat. Wait, hold on a second. Hold on. Am I still on the? I'm still on the wireless. Hold on. Let me.
Not actual jokes.
Not actual jokes, but incredible facsimiles, folks.
Let's find out about
where
this
am I? I'm
audience.
hiding.
How many people from out of
Hi, I'm
town?
back here.
How many
Hold
people
on a
from
second.
out?
I'm hiding
How many
behind
people
the
from out? How many people from?
the
How
stuff
many people? How
and
many?
the things.
Nice talking to you.
Nice talking to you. Anyways, is this a little bit of confusion for you? Is it a little bit dreamy? What is this? I play this almost weekly just to remind you all that, hey, what's happening, and welcome, my friends, to the Ministry of the Flying Pig.
You know, no, I'm teasing.
No, he's just teasing.
Lumpy appendages.
Lumpy appendages. And by the way, the call-in is open if you didn't know. But let's start. Let's start with hi. Welcome and welcome to this Sunday. Let me get the choir in. Hold on a second. Choir, can we get you all situated, please? Because I think, excuse me. There they are. Yes, I think we can hear the choir now. Good. Oh, happy shalom. Sorry, bad internet connection. I apologize. Hopefully it's not me on this side. It tends to look streamy and dreamy. But anyways, let me get comfortable. You guys all came in. Make sure you kick your shoes off. If you're doing something, if you're doing something right now, keep doing it. This is not about stopping your day. This is about freeing ourselves to the realities that we might not be aware of in ourselves, in others, and giving them all the space to be them. That's what a flying pig really is. It's the belief that essentially, and the practice of kindness and love for one's differences, opening oneself up to all of the different possibilities of this amazing sentient life. And, you know, as I hang up my old school YouTube sweater, that's definitely, where is it? Hold on a second, let me just make sure you see this so it's definitely not a flex. It has nothing to do with flexing. Anyhow, yeah, I just wanted to make sure that you all know that from the get-go, I'm not gonna mess around with you. I'm just gonna mess around with you. I'm not gonna say, look at your hands, and then tell you not to look at your hands. No, that's not what I'm gonna tell you. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna get comfy here. And it's a little chilly, as you can see, when you just expose yourself and you're completely vulnerable, you could be see-through like this. Well, yeah, it gets a little cold. So let me, should I wear a tie today? Should I just wear the robe open and wear a tie? Yeah, I think so. Hold on, let's wear a tie. I think it's fancy. I think it's, yes, Abba, welcome. I'm not sure if Abba, have you been here for a Sunday? Should I just bolo it? I'll bolo it. Yeah, that's pretty fancy. I'm fancy. That's how we do this. Welcome, my folks, to the Ministry of the Flying Pig, where today we'll be examining our shared dream state. And when I say shared dream state, I'm talking about how reality is a lot more and a lot less than we might make of it. And that's one of the most interesting things in all of my research in the past couple of decades. And I say research because this is a pastime for me. This has always been a pastime for me, understanding, well, quantum physics, altered states of being, and understanding how we play a role in each other's lives in this shared state of reality. Now, just recently, and I don't want to blow your minds, but I kind of want to blow your minds. So let me just do one thing real quickly. Just remind you all, if you haven't already liked and subscribed, please do so. It keeps you coming back. It keeps people looking. It's oh, look at that! Look at that! I got some new stuff going on. Woo! Anyhow, let's get back to the show. I appreciate you all for being here and taking your time out and sharing your Sunday with me. This is the day where most people just, relax. But we're about to learn something, maybe something about ourselves, and maybe you guys can share with me. And by the way, the call-in is open, but I haven't put it up there yet because I first wanted to give you guys access to the information I have here. And it's pretty legit information, if you could see that. And I'm just going to give you a little preface on it. I'm going to roll it up here. Up at the top of the chat, you'll find the actual CIA report that I took off the CIA website for what is known as the abstract report over the Casimir mirror, which is a mirror that you can build at home that essentially you can travel through time and space through. And why? Well, it has to do with how we dream, it has to do with how we perceive reality, and it has to do with the fact that reality isn't quite what we make it. This is science. This isn't hoo-ha. And people try to do this, but they're missing components because, of course, the plans don't have everything. So, then, of course, right behind that, when I write about the military report up above in the main link, that's actually, here, I'll open this up so you can see that. That's the military report about the gateway process, and it includes the missing 25th page, which describes to you the similarity between this all being that we all tend to believe in or rely on. But that's beside the point. The information at the top all has to do with our dream states and the way that we perceive reality, the way that we put it all together. And I put this here so you can freely take your time and read it and take it down anytime you want. Oh yeah, welcome to this, by the way. Anybody who's not familiar with what we're doing here, we welcome all faith and backgrounds to have this discussion. It's important. This is about taking a look at our shared reality. And that shared reality, I'm sorry, I just missed that. Okay, what does it say? Lita says, did you guys see the alien spottings in Vegas? I missed that. And by the way, this is, these things do all interplay. It may be that most of the UFOs we're seeing are actually transporting themselves via avatar in some, in between. And that actually is one of the very interesting things that the book up above, that is the science surrounding the Cosmov mirror studies. And if you look, it is an abstract research into the goings-on of governmental research and the specifics behind them. It even includes the electronics and detailed structure. Oh, absolutely. No problem, Seven. And also, there's always the playback. You're always welcome to listen and follow anytime. That's thankfully what YouTube does for us, is it gives us the extra 24 hours of the day when we can't be there. Oh, and Paula, no, I agree. I didn't hear anything about it. But, a lot of that stuff tends to be tampered down. So we do what we can to get a hold of the information, which is why I've gathered some of this. And Happy Life says, aliens come to Earth soon. Get ready, y'all. And I'd say they might already be here. Very likely already here. I think some of us are them as well. I think that there's a pairing of all sorts of things. But let's talk about dreams. And let's talk about how these dreams affect us all. And let me get into my library here and my history. And I'm going to go back. I've built a very interesting little gathering of things here. Now, first off, let's talk about why we dream. I think it's important. If you don't know why we dream, I think it's important. Let's see what Abba's saying. Yep, UFO, been looking at that last few days. Oh, so somebody's hanging out. Means there must be some kind of underground testing, or maybe we're missing a crop circle or something like that. Because they've been messaging us. Highly advanced mathematical fractal messages. Now, I'm not covering that today, but you know what, Abba, I think next week, maybe I should start covering both our holographic neighbors and also our intergalactic neighbors, which may be very well one and the same, depending upon how travel happens. Aliens spotted in Vegas, and the temperature there has not been the same since. Interesting. Oh, it has not been hot since. Yeah, interesting. I mean, like, these are temporal effects, or effectively adjusting time and space, which we're going to talk about today. But let's start with why we dream.
Chemistry professor in Belgium. You're working on one of the most pressing problems in chemistry.
Oh, I already skipped over. Oh, I hate when I do that. But I don't. Here we go. And it's quality because Ted, whoever he is.
In the 3rd millennium BCE, Mesopotamian kings recorded and interpreted their dreams on wax tablets. 1,000 years later, ancient Egyptians wrote a dream book listing over 100 common dreams and their meanings. And in the years since, we haven't paused in our quest to understand why we dream. So, after a great deal of scientific research, technological advancement, and persistence, we still don't have any definite answers. By the way, the orchestra has gotten bigger this week. But we have some interesting theories. We dream to fulfill our wishes.
So this is something very important to think about. We don't just go to sleep and dream. Lita Corona, UFOs travel around space. They've been there since 15 BC. I would guarantee that we have long been predated by something else, since the solar system that we're in is ancient, since the galaxy is ancient, since the interdimensional and the dimensional systems of our universe are ancient. And because so much of this that we experience is made up of the unknown for us, we should expect that we're not alone. Although Fermi's paradox does suggest that, we should have seen them so far, maybe we just don't know how to see them. Maybe they're in a dream state next to ours. Maybe they don't want us to see them. Maybe the prime directive is real. If you're not familiar with what that is, it's in Star Trek, in the lore of Star Trek. An advanced species is not to interfere with a species that hasn't advanced to warp capability, meaning they haven't been able to transfer themselves. By the way, the flying pig joining us as usual every 10 minutes. Aaron agreed that the true highly mathematical communications could be through dreams as well. Yes, and we will discover some of this. There is some of this that actually the information suggests that yes, we are communicating. And not just verbally, but that there's a psychic communication between all humanity that is beyond psychic. It is the root. It is the formative root of us. And I'm going to share some fairly controversial information, including a controversial figure who tends to be incredibly educated on the subjects and very well spoken. I've given them the largest space today, and I don't want people to be turned off by them. So I just want to warn you ahead of time. I am sharing somebody today who is a chaos magician. And what does that mean? It means they believe in sorcery for real. They practice a unification of ideologies and math and quantum physics. That's why I'm sharing them, because they're actually a scientist and a sociologist and a practitioner. And they come from a different way of thinking. And I think it's important for us to listen to folks, or at least hear them, and see that there are different ways of thinking than what we know. And Abba says, AI robots are being created. Well, that is for certain. And I've been studying a lot about that and the concerns about AI. Oh, tell me about it. I need a Bala. Let me tell you, I need to start looking into that and the shirts and such like that. I think that would be my actual, if I'm going to put merch out of anything, I can't imagine that my weekly show is going to have anything other than a shirt that says "Look Up." It just doesn't make any sense for that. Maybe a mug that says "Nobody invited me," something like that. Nobody invited me to the conversation. That's that's fine. But yeah, no, it's a good. Hey. By the way, if you aren't relaxing already, if you aren't getting into the mood, please do so. Grab yourself some tea, some coffee, some whatever. If you smoke, you drink, you're just relaxing. You like to nap, throw your feet up. That's what we're about here. Release the inner pig. There's no rush. We're going to talk about this at length. And if you like, that's I'm gonna end up sharing the call-in at some point. And am I not moving fast enough? I'm probably scaring off the natives, but that's okay, because those that are ready to hear this, well, as we all know, if you're ready to leap, if you're ready to jump, if you're ready to let your flying pig out, then you'll be down for this. So, let's check it out.
In the 1900s, Sigmund Freud proposed that while all of our dreams, including our nightmares, are a collection of images from our daily conscious lives, they also have symbolic meanings, which relate to the fulfillment of our subconscious wishes. Freud theorized that everything we remember
that's definitely coming
is a symbolic representation
definitely
of our
hand jobs from robots
thoughts,
coming in like a booth or something terrible.
Freud believed that by analyzing those remembered elements, the unconscious content would be revealed
the Passport Bro is going to be first in
and
line.
Psychological issues stemming from its repression could be addressed and resolved. We dream to remember. To increase performance on certain mental tasks, sleep is good, but dreaming while sleeping is better.
Yes,
In
because
2010, researchers found that subjects were much better at getting through a complex 3D maze if they had napped and dreamed of the maze.
now
prior
why
to
is
their
that? Well, because our brain is not unlike a computer, where when you shut it down, it needs to basically recompile all of the files back to where they came from. And when you do shut it down, it allows that computer to recompile. So, and there's a program that does it for us. In our case, it's dreaming. And that's a neurological repurposing. Basically, the electrons inside of our brain, the synapses inside of our brain, the endocrine and the didacron and the chemicals within our brain shift over to the night shift, so that we can build more extensions and practice what we learn and get rid of what we don't. The filtering is what's important. And Abba says, happy life. Have you seen the movie Lars and the Girl in the Box? A girlfriend's a step up from that movie. Yes, and oh my gosh, yes. Flying pig, yes. That's why the tether babies will pick a robot instead of going overseas. No, they'll still go overseas. It's cheaper, apparently. It'll be cheaper. And, you know, of course, just as nasty as they're looking for. You know, it's the whole, yeah. We actually, I'm going to cover some of this week. I wish it was more associated to something else that I'm covering, but it's not today. I'm talking about, like, what are the other characters? But they're just, even in my extensive search, there is no attachment between Destiny and the Passport Bros, sad to say. You would think there would be something somewhere in there. No, unfortunately, his people just don't leave. These people just don't leave home. Anyways, and boy, they're sure they know the world, don't they? Don't they? Little blue hairs, angry. Little masturbatory guys and gals angry at each other. I've got my $39.99 shipped and handling ready to order. Yeah, exactly. Except Paula, talk about it. Yeah, that movie was amazing. Yes. Anyhow.
Second attempt. In fact, they were up to 10 times better at it than those who only thought of the maze while awake between
So when you dream
attempts,
about things, you
and
actually
those who
have an
napped
advantage
but did not dream
over
about
those who
the
just
maze.
think about them in a rote fashion.
Researchers
because your brain is
theorized
going
that
to
certain memory
imprint that
processes
knowledge
can happen only when
for
we are
use
asleep,
as if we
and our
practiced
dreams
it.
are a
Because
signal that these processes
dreams
are taking place.
are more real than you might
We dream
expect.
to forget. There are
We
about
dream to
10,000
clear the
trillion
registry
neural
as well.
connections within the architecture of your brain. They are created by everything you think and everything you do.
Oh no, that'll never happen.
A 1983
Just for the ones who
theory
can't
of
get them
dreaming
or don't
called
know how to have
reverse learning
interpersonal. And yeah,
holds
there
that
might be a
while
problem at
sleeping,
some point,
and
but
mainly during REM sleep
thankfully,
cycles,
women
your
will always
neocortex
outnumber men.
reviews these neural connections.
And there's
dumps
a
the
genetic
unnecessary
reasoning for that,
ones.
actually.
Without this unlearning process, which results in your dreams, your brain could be overrun by useless connections, and parasitic thoughts could disrupt the necessary thinking
Parasitic
you need to do.
thoughts. Let's talk about this. What is a parasitic thought? A parasitic thought is something that takes hold in your mind that might take you to some place that you weren't meant to go in a bad fashion, not in a good fashion. A parasitic thought can take over your mind and attack to your every piece of your senses. It'll attack your neurology, actually, and it'll take you to a place that you'll no longer know yourself because the parasitic thought, has turned you into someone else. This is real. That's how all sorts of things like fascism starts, because you self-deprecate to the point where you lose sense of who you might be at your root. And frankly, all of us, I believe every single one of us, has the innate ability and is born kind. The ability to love one another is within us from jump. But I think many people are losing their dream. Maybe because there's a disconnect. Maybe because there's a disenfranchisement. Maybe because they're too busy listening to people who tell them their dreams are not as valid, or that they can't achieve them, when dreams are real. Yes, Cynthia G's mindset is spreading to people like Sunny D. And if you notice, I think that those people have gone nihilistically into the world, into their day, because they're not allowing their dreams or the belief that this universe, this world is more amazing and that humans are more amazing and magical than we could have ever possibly imagined, my friends. Because first and foremost in every single one of us, let me preach for a hot second here and drop a hot flick and take. We are the magic of all, and we make up the universal us. By the way, I still have that sore on my finger from dropping a brick on it from 2 months ago. I've been trying to dream it away, but clearly, it has not. Which would suggest that we're not in a dream when we are. But maybe I just need to see it as gone. Well, I don't know. Frankly, I'm as confused as everybody else, I think. And that's why I often say I'm no leader, I'm no preacher, I'm just one of the flock. I'm just one of the many of the fold that is just trying to figure it out. And by sharing this conversation, and yeah, Abba, absolutely, the future is going to be a balance that we have to manifest, that we can't just let happen with somebody else's dreams, which is why I'm not only sharing with you the technology for the gateway process that I've pinned up here, as opposed to the call-in, but also, if you scroll up to the top of the chat, I have given you all of the current factual technology to build your own Kazamarov mirror. What is that? It's a device, old as time. Tesla built one in a slightly different fashion, and it can be purchased at Home Depot. But this is the same device that Nostradamus claimed to use. It is a convex mirror. It's what the Greeks used. It's what scientists now believe is the most simplified way to break out of this dimensional reality. And it takes dreams and meditation. But we'll get to this, because it's going to be wild today. I'm going to challenge you, because this is wild. None of this stuff, my friends, is what one would consider normal, but it is normal because it's special. So before we move on, and as we drop the beat here, and by the way, how you guys feeling the new orchestra? I kind of am. Oh, did I mute that somehow? Oh, yeah. Of course, as I mute the orchestra. I was trying to add in the cellos, and Cynthia G's parasitic thinking with grifting money and support is spreading genocidal influence. Yes. And those who would sell you, as Voltaire said, an idiocy would also sell you an atrocity. Which she is essentially, and we've heard that folks are totally down for it. And that's kind of scary, which is why we all need to dream ourselves into a state of bliss, my friends. Because bliss can only be had with the allowance. The allowance of bliss for ourselves and others. My pleasure. My pleasure. The paperwork I found up there is pretty extreme. And hopefully it can give you something to think about. And hopefully somewhere to take you. It's amazing. And I am actually thinking about building a mirror myself in the backyard, in a little booth kind of thing in the future once my house is done. Yeah. Anyhow, let's get at it. Drop the beat. Yeah. So the orchestra, the new orchestra that I'm working with. They're not union, but damn. Talk about fun. Anyways.
While you're awake. quickly.
Why are dreams important to us? Because they are a utility in our
dream to
brain
keep our brains working.
that keeps our brain working.
The continual activation theory proposes that your dreams result from your
Continual
brain's need to
activation
constantly
theory.
consolidate and create long-term memories in order to function properly. So when external input falls below a certain level, like when you're asleep, your brain automatically triggers the generation of data from its memory storages, which appear to you in the form of the thoughts and feelings you experience in your dreams. In other words, your dreams might be a random screensaver your brain turns on so it doesn't completely shut down. We dream to rehearse. Dreams involving dangerous and threatening situations are very common, and the primitive instinct rehearsal theory holds that the content of a dream is significant to its purpose. Whether it's an anxiety-filled night of being chased through the woods by a bear or fighting off a ninja in a dark alley, these dreams allow you to practice your fight or flight instincts and keep them sharp and dependable in case you need them in real life. But it doesn't always have to be unpleasant. For instance, dreams about your attractive neighbor could actually give your reproductive instinct some practice too.
See, they're real.
We dream to
so,
heal.
Incels, it's fine.
Stress neurotransmitters in the brain are much less active during the REM stage of sleep, even during dreams of traumatic experiences, leading some researchers to theorize that one purpose of dreaming is to take the edge off painful experiences to allow for psychological healing. Reviewing traumatic events in your dreams with less mental stress may grant you a clearer perspective and an enhanced ability to process them in psychologically healthy ways. People with certain mood disorders and PTSD often have difficulty sleeping, leading some scientists to believe that lack of dreaming may be a contributing factor to their illnesses.
And
We
that
dream
is,
to solve problems.
Something that,
Unconstrained
Oh,
by
hey, look at
reality and
that!
the rules of conventional logic.
Look at that.
In your dreams,
I love
your
it.
mind can create limitless scenarios.
By
to
the way,
help
let me
you
feed you
grasp
guys. Hold on a second.
problems and formulate solutions.
let me send some
that you
stars
may
on
not
down here.
consider while awake. John Steinbeck called it the committee
Oh,
of
is that? Hold
sleep,
on, right?
and research
There we
has
go.
demonstrated the effectiveness of dreaming on problem solving. It's also how renowned chemist August Kekule discovered the structure of the benzene molecule, and it's the reason that sometimes the
There we
best
go. Have
solution
some
for a
stars,
problem is to sleep.
And the controls are somewhere.
And those
I
are just a
always
few of
forget
the
how to
more
do the
prominent
controls. Oh yeah,
theories.
the
As
Stream
technology
Avatar extension just
increases
rolled
our
through.
capability for understanding the brain, it's possible that one day we will discover the definitive reason for them. But until that time arrives, we'll just...
Why am I talking over this? Because subconsciously, we take more in. Why? Because our brain is really adept at parsing off what it needs to know from the language and the visual into cogent thinking, into useful thinking, into thinking that is, utilitarian. And that's important. That's important for the brain. Huh. Thankfully, it's not dragging for you, but it's dragging for me. So if it starts to drag, let me know. I don't know what the hell I did. But apparently my computer was like, yeah? Okay. Okay, whatever. Okay, so we're fine. It's probably the orchestra, actually. At least it's still rolling. There we go. Oh, I know what it is. Sorry. Now I'm not confused. All right, thank you. Anyhow. So dreams are useful. Not just in having something creative, but rather how they form our thoughts for the next day, how they allow us to practice, things that we haven't done. Because the more we think about something, the more likely it is that we'll dream about it later at night. And like they were saying, even sex is represented in the brain in a factual way. So the brain doesn't know the difference. That's because the brain might just be something in the way. And that's going to take us to one of the more controversial pieces that I'm going to share with you today. I'm sorry. No, first, I apologize. Let's go to Michio Kaku.
There's a whole lore about dreaming. In fact, Sigmund Freud wrote a book called The Interpretation of Dreams, which many people think is the foundation of psychoanalysis. Well, scientists now have looked at Freudian psychology and the brain using all these modern techniques. And first of all, we realize that perhaps Sigmund Freud wasn't totally wrong. There are many textbooks which simply dismiss Freudian psychology, calling it nuts. That is nothing but the sexual fantasies of a repressed Venetian scientist of the last century. But now we realize there's more to it. First of all, the unconscious mind. We can actually see the brain in motion. And we realize that much of the activity is totally unconscious, just like what Freud predicted. And Freud also said there is the ego, the id, and the superego, that we are in a constant battle with our desires and our conscious. And we see that now with brain scans. The ego is basically your prefrontal cortex. That is who you are.
So
when you wonder, where am I
in
anyway?
the front of our
Well,
head.
you're right there. You are
And
sitting right
so-
behind your forehead. And
Yes.
then your desires. We see the pleasure center right there at the center of the
So
brain.
as I was saying, when the brain is interacting while you're sleeping, we can see via CAT scan, MRI, the activities in the brain. And we know where and what is being represented.
That is the libido. We see where the pleasure center is located. And then your conscience is right behind your eyes. The orbital frontal cortex, right behind your eyes, is where your conscience
Oh, I'm gonna,
is.
Abba.
And
I'm
so
gonna.
we actually see that in motion. If you were to see a chocolate cake, you would see these three parts of the brain going zippity back and forth like a ping pong ball, because you're constantly debating the pleasure of eating a chocolate cake versus how fat you're going to become.
Yeah,
And all
Michio
the
Kaku
sugar
is
and the
one of my
calories that you
favorite
don't really
scientists,
need.
and he's
so we see
been
the
heralded
beginnings of Freudian
over and over for
psychology
his search
coming
and
out
work.
of brain scans. And now, dreams. Freud had a whole collection of interpretation of dreams. Scientists have looked at and said, nonsense. Now we
Originally they
understand
did.
the physiology.
Same as they did, by the way, same as they did to the Egyptian Book of the Dead. And many of these concepts have been found to be more true when it comes to the different variances in the ways that we use our dreams than, science would actually like to admit now. Even though this is all recent in the last couple of years, it's very important to remember that, it's not always that science catches up to the realities that we've already known. It just takes some time to validate. And that's the quality of science. That's the greatness of science, is that it's going to double check. And it may debate and deny. Oh yeah, AI, robots versus aliens. That could very well be coming, Happy. Yeah, absolutely. 2027 will be the year, the AI full takeover. He says the jobs, restaurants, AI women, AI cops, and yeah, I honestly, I think that we will be seeing it even sooner than that. And one of the conversations I was listening to the other day about AI, which I may cover at some point in the next coming weeks, was about the former head of Google's AI program, the programmer, one of the head programmers, who was talking about how AI is taking large leaps. Accepting that part of the concern, I think, is not as valid as people think, because this is a representation of ourselves. And although Harlan Ellison's concerns about an AI controlling the world and forgetting its empathy is a very valid concern, I do believe that the amount of programming to counter that has been not only beneficial, but I think that we'll see the results in the long run. I think that AI will benefit humanity more than it will hurt it. Although I am more than sure that we'll have to think of ways to the flying pig, the flying pig. By the way, yeah, him, that, her, they. We'll have to think of more creative aspects to this, because one thing we can't do is be in fear of our own creations and then have it turn into Frankenstein. We have to get ahead of it, which I think people are, and we're talking about it and exploring it. That's the way I look at it. So hopefully that's true. I try to follow Kurzweil and some of these other folks' interests and their logic, but I also see that people like myself exist who are accessing the AI and utilizing our hopes and dreams to give it a better outlook and behavior, at least hopefully. So, let me give it a little spin. Maybe kaleidoscope a little bit. Hold on a second. There we go. Yeah, you can't see it, but you will. All right. Michio, what do you got to say?
The dreaming process. And we realize that it comes at the back of the brain, a very primitive part of the brain, and that certain parts of the brain are shut off when you dream. First of all, your prefrontal cortex.
Yeah, so that way you don't go running down the hallway, by the way.
Quiet. Your orbital frontal cortex, that is your conscience, is also shut off. But that part of the brain is your fact checker. The part of the brain that says, that's not right, something's wrong, is right behind your eyes. That's shut off. What is active when you dream is your amygdala. And what does your amygdala govern? Fear and emotions. And so right then you know that when you dream, the active part of the brain is not the fact checker, not the rational brain, it's the emotional brain, the fearful brain that is
absolute truth,
active when you dream.
Timing is everything, and that's
and
true.
Then there's some superstition called lucid dreaming, where you can actually control the direction of the dream.
Except it's not a superstition.
Well, that superstition last year became science fact. At the Max Planck Institute in Germany, they were able to show once and for all that lucid dreaming is testable, reproducible, it is real. And here's how they did it. They took a person who was about to go to sleep and told them that when you dream, clench your right fist and then clench your left fist.
So make some physical
now,
activity.
Now when you dream, you are
try
paralyzed.
to remember it.
You cannot move when you dream. Otherwise, we'd be able to carry out all sorts
Your
of
brain
horrible
paralyzes
things
you.
and destroy ourselves.
Let's just say that.
So we are paralyzed when we dream. But when this person went into a dream state, you can clearly see that the brain initiated orders to clench your right fist and your left fist. In other words, he was conscious while he was dreaming. There are many Buddhist texts, many texts hundreds of years old, that give you the outlines of how to control dreams.
The Book of the Dead.
Dreaming. We now know that it's not hogwash, that you can actually do this. You can actually direct the course of your dream.
And this
and
has been
one
practiced
day,
since the
we
Egyptians,
may be able
by
to
the way.
brain scan the brain as you dream and put it on a screen. In which case, somebody will be able to see you dream
and that's
know
a
the
great,
direction of
great
the dream.
story.
And
I
you
think
are
it's Philip K.
conscious
Dick.
of the
Is
process.
that iRobot? I'd have
In
to
other
look that
words,
up on.
the movie Inception is not totally hogwash.
So, the possibilities of what we can do in our dreams are way beyond what folks would have you believe initially, or what maybe the folks that don't want you to experience more than less might have you believe. And I want to remind you a little bit about quantum physics before we move on to the very controversial subject of the dream state and how that's closer to being in reality, it seems, than most would want us to know. So, let's take a look at Dr. Quantum real quickly, because I think there's something valuable in this.
What balls are bouncing off each other and creating that pattern.
So if you're not familiar with the double slit experiment, basically what happens is that
through two slits, we get this, two bands of Higgs. And with waves, we get an interference pattern of many bands. Good so far. Now,
so a particle creates a line, and a wave creates an interference pattern. When you put two waves against each other, that interference pattern is represented in a number of wave lines that then disperse outward. Okay. So what's special about that? Well, these are atoms. These are molecules. These are electrons, particles, the smallest portion of matter. And when you observe them, they do something different than when you're not observing them. And they don't just do that in front of you. No. Reality adjusts itself at the beginning of time. By reality, I mean the material reality, or so it would seem. Because what we're going to talk about today, well, it may hurt you a little bit. Because a lot of what you may have been told about physical reality, about how we perceive this, it may not be true at all. And this is why we're having this discussion and why I'm sharing this with you. Because dreams, my friend, dreams are where we live. Both in the waking state and in the sleeping realm. We exist in a place that, well, since the beginning of time, certain whole groups of people told us, well, that's not real. And Paula Gray says, Inception. Oh yeah, and I'm sorry, I missed Java. Wow, this is so cool. I appreciate that. Thank you, Paula Gray. I have you seen they live, obey, be good. I'm sorry, I misunderstood that. Inception. Yup, another great movie. Took me 3 viewings to get the plot. Yeah, Inception can be tough. Yeah, that one's a tough. I tend to not log my dreams. And you know, it's interesting because you don't have to actually. Your brain, your body, your spirit, it logs the dream for you. It's carrying it forward and backwards, which is part of the astonishing stuff. So let's see what Dr. Quantum has to say about observation of matter.
An electron is a tiny, tiny bit of matter, like a tiny marble. Let's fire a stream through one slit. It behaves just like the marble, a single band.
Huh.
So, if we shoot these tiny bits through 2 slits, we should get, like the marbles, 2 bands. What? An interference pattern.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense, right?
Electrons, tiny bits of matter through. But we get a pattern like waves, not like little marbles.
Why would that be?
How? How could pieces of matter create an interference pattern like a wave? It doesn't make sense.
Yes, it does.
But physicists are clever.
Hopefully.
Maybe those little
I would hope
balls
so.
are bouncing off each other and creating that pattern.
Yeah, so maybe they're just like, you know,
they decide
interfering with
to
one
shoot
another.
electrons
Like the interference
through
pattern.
one at a time.
Yeah, oh, okay.
There is no way they could interfere with each other. But after an hour of this, the same interference pattern is seen to emerge. The conclusion is inescapable. The single electron leaves as a particle, becomes a wave of potentials, goes through both slits, and interferes with itself to hit the wall.
Why? Because it is all possibilities at once before it goes through that slit.
Both slits, and it goes through neither. And it goes through just one, and it goes through just the other. All of these possibilities are in superposition with each other.
How and why?
Completely baffled by this. So they decided to peek and see which slit actually goes through. They put a measuring device by one slit to see
And literally, the measuring device acts like an eye.
But the quantum world is far more mysterious than they could have imagined.
This is the
When
truth.
they observed, the electron went back to behaving like a little marble. It produced a pattern of 2 bands, not an interference pattern of many.
As soon as it was observed, right?
The very act of measuring or observing which slit it went through meant it only went through one, not both. The electron decided to act differently, as though it was aware it was being watched.
And actually, what we've come to find out,
Was here.
and I'm going to stop the
physicists
orchestra real
stepped
quickly and bring us down to a little silence. What we've come to find out is that the nature of reality is weird enough so that rendering of reality is localized to observation. Orchestra, kick back in. Yeah. The Nobel Prize this year went to the team of scientists, physicists, who figured out that reality is forming because we're all agreeing that it forms. And it only forms outside of our peer review when we perceive it to be. And we all agree on it. And, no, George Orwell was not crazy at all. Paula Gray Robot will grocery shopping, cook you food, give you money. Hopefully. Man, you know I'd try to figure that one out. You're like, I don't know, you gonna go work for me? Yo, good on you. Good on you, Robot. And, at Aaron, you have just helped inspired me. Wow, this is amazing. I knew why spending time with you is well spent. Oh, thank you, Abba. I appreciate it. Yeah, wait, you haven't... Don't say that too soon, because I'm just about to... for some of you, I may actually hurt your sense of reality a little bit. I'm going to warn you that as the book of the Subgenius says, if you don't understand what you're reading at this point, please put the book down. Because this is where things get very challenging. Now that I've reminded you that reality is temporal, that... we render reality amongst our own agreements with each other, that dreaming formulates our reality by putting things into place and perspective in our computational device, let's say our brain. I'm going to share with you a person named Morg. And Morg is a wild thinker, but a highly educated human who is accurate. Beyond just accurate, succinctly knowledgeable. And I hope you don't run away when you see this, because this is very important about our reality, our dreaming. So important that we get this information from the CIA documents that I posted in the chat.
A declassified CIA document from the 1980s has been uncovered, and it reveals a mind-bending truth. The world around you is an illusion created by your own mind, that there are alternate dimensions waiting for you to access them, and ultimately this information shows you are God. Sound crazy? I've devoted my life to studying consciousness and hidden information, and this is one of the most incredible declassified documents I've ever encountered. The shocking information within reveals a method for accessing other realities and a way to tap into the power of your own consciousness to transcend the limitations of time and space. This is not science fiction. This is a real document, and the secrets it holds are waiting for you to uncover. Now, before we continue, make sure you like and subscribe, because I'll be releasing even more information about this document on my channel in the near future. The document begins by revealing the incredible fact that reality is actually an illusion constructed by your brain and the senses. It explains that the brain is capable of constructing a virtual reality through the process of perception by taking raw sensory data and organizing it into a coherent picture of the world. Think of the brain like a computer that processes...
We're talking about dreams and how they affect us, and I am releasing the information alongside several others, and you have... I'm basically just got into the very controversial subject of the gateway process, which anyone here can practice. It is a matter of meditation. It's a matter of some tool usage and building some items that I've also attached at the top of the chat. If you scroll all the way up at the top of the chat, which I'll show you right here, because you missed a little at the beginning, so I don't want you to miss out on the information that folks are seeing here. Right up at the top of the chat, here's the CIA abstract report on the Casimir mirror, which allows you to travel through other, apparently, a dream state into the outside of reality. That's government from Russia. This is also a study on the Casimir mirror done by the CIA. Also, the scientific review of unusual research by governments on both the CIA and the Russian government, as provided to the State Department and the CIA. And of course, up at the top, the full to complete 30 pages of the Gateway Report that includes the 25th page, which describes the observation of the all-being. Why is this important? Because hundreds of millions of dollars, if not billions, were poured into this research, and most of us never heard it. I just read the Gateway Report for the first time earlier this week and doing research for this. Shocked to find its availability as a declassified document, because we could all learn something about ourselves and others and the nature of everything. And we could advance ourselves, well, 10 lifetimes per viewing, maybe.
programming code to construct a video game world. Well, the document explains that the brain operates in a similar way, but that this process can be transcended or hacked, allowing you to have out-of-body experiences and tap into dimensions beyond space and time. I'll be revealing exactly what this document says about how this works, and by the end of this video, you'll have uncovered what's described as a powerful method for breaking out of the confines of your body and the physical world.
If you remember, last week I was talking a bit about, I was sharing one of the physicists, one of the ones who won the Nobel Peace Prize, was talking about how we live our lives with a headset on. Except what you may find coming up here soon is that that headset's our brain. Our brain is transferring. So it's us transferring the information, which is, I'll let him explain. I'll let them explain.
You'll have learned the ultimate truth about yourself and all existence. But first, you have to know something about the gateway process. Established in 1974, the Monroe Institute is a mysterious research organization that specializes in the study of altered states of consciousness and human potential by pushing the limits of the human mind. The Monroe Institute developed a training system called the gateway process for altering brain frequencies to a level that induces altered states of consciousness, allowing one to access hidden layers of reality beyond the physical world. This caught the eye of the U.S. military for its potential applications in military and intelligence operations. And in 1978, they ventured into uncharted territories, evaluating the gateway process and its potential applications in the art of war. The military arranged to send its officers for training at the Monroe Institute in the art of out-of-body experiences, or OBEs. And as the years passed, the military's fascination with this only grew stronger, leading to a shadowy mission in 1983, where additional officers were sent to the Monroe Institute with the intention of unlocking the secrets of out-of-body experiences and harnessing the power for military purposes. And it was during this time, specifically on June 9th, 1983, the CIA produced a then classified document for the Department of Defense detailing the gateway process, the illusory nature of reality, other dimensions beyond space and time, and a warning of encounters with non-physical entities. Finally, this document was declassified in 2003. Now it will change the way you look at reality forever. The document begins by explaining how the mechanics of the gateway process, also known as the gateway experience, requires an understanding of biomedical models, quantum mechanics, theoretical physics, hypnosis, meditation, and references its association with the occult. And we're going to dive in and explore that process right now. You need to hear this because this will change the way you see reality forever. The document explains. Fundamentally, the gateway experience is a training system designed to bring enhanced strength, focus, and coherence to the amplitude and frequency of brainwave output between the left and right hemispheres.
Which, by the way, this is part of what I do when I talk about the polyscopic hypnotization. I access this utility within our brain to feed every single one of you every Sunday, and sometimes during my show, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, a subliminal, effective knowledge. Why? Because it's easier to reach you so that you walk out into your world and you don't even have to pay much attention. And I promise you, I will never try to subvert that. That's my actual big deal about these folks that'll sit in the corner and sell your kids terrible ideas while playing video games. Yeah, and there's more than just one of them, by the way. There's lots of them. They're using this technology too, except I don't even believe that they know. I don't think they know, as a matter of fact. And that's a terrible thing. That's a frightening thing, really, that they don't actually know. And by the way, let me drop some stars to y'all. Yeah, it looked like we were thin on stars down there. Is there enough avatars? Oh yeah, I know. I see. Hold on a second. Let's add a couple more folks down in there. Hold on. There we go, little guys. Right? Yeah. Oh, hey, there's a T-Rex. Oh, damn. There's a couple T-Rex. All right. Yeah. Anyhow. So, dream states. We think that it's just about altered states of consciousness and being a little odd. When in fact, my friends, it's about freeing ourselves from reality. And we should take note of this because the government has.
As to alter consciousness, moving it outside the physical sphere so as to ultimately escape even the restrictions of time and space. So what's going on here? The left and right hemispheres of the brain have very different functions. For example, when it comes to speech, the left hemisphere deals with the logical structure and rules of sentences, while the right hemisphere deals with the meaning of the sentence. The two hemispheres working together, combining logical structure and meaning, is what allows us to communicate. Essentially, the gateway process uses audio signals delivered through headphones to synchronize the left and right hemispheres of the brain to alter the mind, moving your consciousness outside of physical reality. But hold on, you might be thinking, how can the brain move your consciousness outside of physical reality? Isn't your brain and the mind the same thing? And if your brain is physical, how can it move consciousness outside of physical reality? That doesn't make any sense. That's because the idea that this is a physical reality and that the brain produces consciousness is wrong. Let me explain.
Did you just wait? Hold on a second. Did you just say that the idea that the outside stimuli creates consciousness is incorrect? Really? Huh? Why would he say that? Also, like the Silva method. Yes, said Aaron. Yeah, bless you, Paula Gray. Oh, thank you. Yes, no, and thank you. I appreciate that. Yes, true fact, Aaron. I've seen documentaries and books by the U.S. military. Yeah, I mean, forget about the fact that MK Ultra really happened, and we have a lot of documentation to prove so. The outcome of MK Ultra seems to be what we're looking at now. And you can read it for yourself.
States, solid matter in the strict construction of the term simply does not exist. The truth is that the world around you, everything you can taste, touch, hear, smell, and feel, is a kind of illusion generated by the brain. But what about the brain itself? The brain does not generate consciousness. You are not a brain. You are an eternal system of energy, a complex of frequency. The brain is what filters, limits, and conditions you so that you can experience the physical realm. Think of your brain and body not as what you are, but like a vehicle. Think that's crazy? Not according to neurosurgeon Michael Egnor. And
so, we're not a body? We're a vehicle? Huh. Starting to sound a lot more like a video game, doesn't it? Starting to sound a lot more like a permeable environment where we are experiencing. Oh, thank you so much. We're experiencing for some purpose. What could that purpose be? Why would we be doing this? Where are we? Where are all of us? What is we now? We are one. All of us. Everything. And if we are driving our brain, and our brain is not driving us, then reality, well, that's us. And if we are but a dream, holy shit, life is but a dream, is absolutely true. Now, how do we use this in our daily lives? Oh yeah, we can use this in our daily lives. Because time and reality and the sense of the dream state, they're connected. They're all one, just as we are, according to the gateway.
Many like him, who, due to his work with the brain, has concluded there's no way that the brain can create consciousness and has abandoned materialism for idealism, which means he now believes that reality isn't physical, but mental, immaterial. Your brain and body are not what you are. It's what allows the true you to connect to physical reality. Except physical reality isn't physical either. It just seems that way when you are connected to it. Just like
the one set of experiments that was set up to fail. Although that group did have some successes. What they used that for is a classic red herring. They had probably 20 or 30 studies going on underneath one banner in just that site alone. And all of that information, the fails and the wins, were gathered into a larger study, which was used for the Gateway program.
A dream seems to be physical and real when you're in the dream. The CIA document states, the point to be made is that the entire human being, brain, consciousness, and all is like the universe which surrounds him, nothing more or less than an extraordinarily complex system of energy fields. The so-called states of matter are actually variances in the state of energy. According to this document, everything is a non-physical system of energy, including the universe, your body, and your brain. Actually variances in the state, nothing more or less than an extraordinarily complex system of energy fields. The so-called states of matter are actually variances in the state of energy. According to this document, everything is a non-physical system of energy, including the universe, your body, and your brain. So what is the brain? Well, the brain is still a system of energy, of mind, which has the function of tuning your consciousness to perceive the physical world around you. The document continues. As psychologist Keith Floyd puts it, contrary to what everyone knows is so, it may not be the brain that produces consciousness, but rather consciousness that creates the appearance of the brain. Think of the brain not as what...
Essentially what he's saying is, by thinking, therefore we are. Yeah, I mean, I find it uncanny that I went to the CIA website and pulled that information down. I mean, if you take a look at where this information comes from, in each of the cases, these are governmental entities. Although there is a paper here about the unusual research up here, which comes from my Dropbox actually, because the connect to it was so long. It was like 300 letters worth of identifier. It was pretty amazing, and it was in the Library of Congress actually. So yeah, if you go up to the top, the CIA abstract report on the Casimir mirror comes from the CIA, and also so mind you, it could be counter information, but these things are pretty well known. And the document cloud, the S3 document cloud, that's science third level. You can go to the gateway process at the top, and that is actually the public archive for the release of public files from the CIA. So yeah, legit as much as I can get them, folks. I don't go for that third party shit. I try to go to the sources. Is somebody here? Did somebody show up? Is somebody in the... Hold on, let me see. Kind of looks like it, doesn't it? No, just me. It's just me. Which, by the way, I haven't put the call in up yet because we haven't even gotten there. But let's hear more about the game.
You are, but like a virtual reality headset that you, as an eternal being of frequencies, puts on to experience the illusion of the physical world. A VR headset blocks out the information of one world and gives you the illusion of another world.
And if you think about it
this way,
our neurological system is an electronic impulse. Everything in the universe is an electronic impulse. Everything in the universe, everything in reality, is made up of a static layer of interacting electrons, protons. So what is the headset? The headset, being our brain, is containing those electrons and matter that are forming into electrical values and variances and valences. The brain is the container that keeps us from seeing the other side. We are, in some ways, our own worst enemy, because our brain, well, hell, it too can pull the wool over your own eyes. So let's not forget that. Trying for the original, not the knockoffs, especially when it comes for those art shoes too, by the way. You know, SBs only. Sorry. And by the way, if you want to check the stream avatar stuff, you can actually get control of or pick your characters down there by clicking on the stream avatars link. And then it gives you control. It tells you what the controls are for the characters. You can jump. You can actually, and here, let me, I see the stars are low down there. It's low on stars. Got to keep everybody fed with stars, because you guys, oh, no, those are avatars. No, I wanted stars. Oh, hold on a second. There we go. That's better. It's getting crowded down there. Thankfully, you got name tags. Anyhow, what am I talking about?
In a similar way. Well, why would your brain do this in the first place? Why would it force you to tune in and focus on only this so-called physical reality and exclude all other information? Because it evolved that way to ensure your survival. If a creature was focused on, let's say, the state of an electron spin on the other side of the universe, a predator would easily hunt it down and eat it.
Yeah,
Aldous Huxley said, each one of us is potentially mind at large, but insofar as we are animals, our business is at all costs to survive. To make biological survival possible, mind at large has to be funneled through the reducing valve of the brain and nervous system. What comes out at the other end is a measly trickle of the kind of consciousness which will help us to stay alive.
That might be even the reason why they put this information out there. But the one thing that is quantifiable is that there are other studies from other governments, and because they were so busy looking at this information, that's how we got it. Plus, the public release of information has been tested. There have been other studies done since then in the public eye, and we know now that this is more than less. So you put this together with the Cosmorov mirror, and I'm probably saying that wrong, by the way. And boy, you get a picture that says we're closer to the outside of reality than reality is to us, it seems, and that we're living in this manufactured dream state that we all share. So what can we do? Oh, well, maybe he'll tell us.
Surface of this particular planet. The idea that the brain does not create consciousness, but rather limits and focuses the mind on the so-called physical universe is known as brain filter theory, and that's exactly what this document is stating. You are not a brain. You are not physical. You are an infinite being of energy, of frequencies, that's having an experience of the so-called physical world, but it's not physical either. It just seems that way. All reality is actually a kind of internal hologram. The Gateway document continues. The universe is composed of interacting energy fields, some at rest and some in motion, and it is, in and of itself, one gigantic hologram of unbelievable complexity. According to the theories of Carl Pribram, a neuroscientist at Stanford University, and David Bohm, a physicist at the University of London, the human mind is also a hologram which attunes itself to the universal hologram. Now, I need to make something very clear, because I feel like I'm going to get a lot of comments about this.
That's a tough thing to perceive.
It's important to understand.
There's a hologram making a hologram. Well, in order to form the belief, there had to be some structure to give the belief a centered, practiced source to come from, which may be why in the center of our brain and in the back of our brain, we foment these ideas and practices, and the way we see, why there's an ocular cavity, why there's so much reflection and things going on. This is just a mirror of the larger system. But as he says, if it is as this program suggests, we are a hologram projecting our own hologram so that we don't know it's a hologram. And we do this in agreement. J-Ro, welcome. Yeah, you just joined us. By the way, if you believe it's nonsense, I welcome the views into the scientific research surrounding all this up at the top of the chat. I'll share this here as well. You've got the CIA report on the study, including the missing 25th page. And then you have the study on the Cosmere mirror in abstract, done for the CIA, which is the way that one is able to actually transmit through time and space. And then Underneath it, there's the testing done by a number of governmental sources, written in I believe this is from the 80s. That's a direct PDF book that covers the entirety. What seems like nonsense is more sense than we would probably want to admit. The reality is just as much a dream as the dream is reality. Yeah, absolutely. And yes, Lita, actually, I was about to say, can I get your, I have your email. Yeah, absolutely. Each of these studies are actually in the chat as well. If you'd like to download the review of the unusual research, that's in a Dropbox. It's actually at the top of the chat, folks. So if you want, and then I'll open up the actual military report on the Gateway process. And this gentleman, by the way, who did the report, yeah, please do. It's interesting stuff. And once I got into the book on the governmental studies, that's when the confirmation went through the roof, because there's other resources in the footnotes of that book that lead me to each and every one of the studies done. So it's pretty deep. It goes pretty deep. And what this person up here is talking about is how the Gateway process was actually used.
The universe is not an external hologram. It doesn't get projected out there like in sci-fi movies. Rather, it gets projected internally. So whenever I or the document mentions a hologram, remember that it's not a hologram that's projected externally that you could put your hand through like in movies.
Nope.
It's an internal mental hologram that's solid and interacts with every physical sense, including touch. To understand that better, think about when you go to sleep and dream. You can think about your dream as an internally projected hologram.
It's exactly
it actually
the same.
is. Reality is
because
a system
the dream doesn't actually know the difference between reality and not. The only difference is that your brain is turned off of the nerve centers that allow your body to actually interact with reality physically. Now, as Michio Kaku pointed out, when you give somebody the direction to squeeze their fists in their dream, their brain thinks they're squeezing their fist in physical reality, yet they are not, but they are doing the same brain motion because the hologram in your brain is. The physical body is not. And that, as we were talking about earlier, keeps us from running down a hallway, unless, of course, you're a sleepwalker. Yeah, it's all pretty interesting reads. It's very heady and very dry, by the way, folks, so don't be expected to be like exciting. Although I will say the Gateway process report is kind of exciting, which lends me to believe that some of it's BS in there. Not gonna lie to you, some of it seems a little played up. But page 25, this particular report, by the way, comes from the research center, not the government. I forgot to tell you that. This one in particular, although it is on the government free information site, was placed there by the Monroe Institute and not by the CIA. So you should know that these things do make a difference. And thank you for joining us and spending your Sunday with me. I really do appreciate that. It's one of those things that, I mean, to be frank, I know you got other things to do. I know that, you don't have to be here, but you are, and I thank you for that. Because we're all going to learn something.
Mathematical frequency patterns that are mental, they're not physical, and they create an internal hologram within itself that, when you're tuned into it via the brain, can not only be seen, but also touched, tasted, heard, and sensed in every way. According to this document, the Gateway process works by hacking the brain, so to speak, by synchronizing the left and right hemispheres of the brain in such a way that it begins to lift the filtering function that keeps you tuned into the physical universe and allows you to have out-of-body experiences and experience other dimensions. According to the Gateway document, this is known as clicking out, and it's done by getting the brain waves to oscillate at a frequency below a distance known as the Planck distance, which is a fundamental...
You may have heard me talk about this as the most dense matter that weights the universe. And they believe that the Planck distance, or the actual Planck source, the singularity, is on the other side of a black hole. And apparently, I haven't had a chance to go read the paper yet, but we've seen through the other side of a black hole now, just recently. So we know what's on the other side, and at least in what I've seen in the initial reports, it looks like Planck was right. Planck, he'll talk about it. Interesting character.
Concept in quantum physics, named after one of its founders and Nobel Prize winner, Max Planck. This exact distance is 1.6 times 10 to the negative 35 meters. And according to the document, when the brainwaves reach a frequency at this level that is nearly continuous, consciousness clicks out and enters a new world. In fact, Max Planck himself said this over 100 years ago. As a man who has devoted his whole life to the most clear-headed science, to the study of matter, I can tell you as a result of my research about atoms this much. There is no matter as such. All matter originates and exists only by virtue of a force which brings the particles of an atom to vibration and holds this most minute solar system of the atom together. We must assume behind this force the existence of a conscious and intelligent mind. The mind is the matrix of all matter.
Oh my goodness! Did Planck just say Matrix from way back in the day? Yeah. Where do you think we got the idea from? The matrix of all things. That comes from Planck. Why? Because he saw that we were perpetrating it, but he didn't quite have the complete science for it yet. And all he could do is hypothesize. But even through his clear-headed science of the study of matter, he can tell you, as a result of his research about atoms, this much: there is no matter as such. All matter originates and exists only by virtue of a force which brings the particles of an atom to vibration. So some kind of force that, yes, geek surgeon, everything is the mind. Except it's suggesting, this report over here is suggesting, right there, right in there, that it's not even the mind. That we, you and I, and everything else, are the perceptual reality. That we are somehow sharing from beyond ourselves to learn something, or maybe to have the novelty of the experience. We'll get to that, because that's important to know, that there isn't some less than about this, rather a greater than, that we should all appreciate and love and admire, because we can do so much more and be so much more than we are, than we allow ourselves to be, than we allow others to be. The essence of love is in this, because we, somewhere, somehow, all together, decided that reality should never end, and that we should take every moment and make it as great, it seems, a great dream the thrice great, yes, told us this thousands of years ago, yes indeed, that there is something more than just the dream in this life, and that life is more than just the dream, that we are one. And we got the science to prove it now. Or at least
according to Planck, matter doesn't exist. Everything is mind. This is a mental reality. But what does Planck mean by a conscious and intelligent mind being behind all reality? That sounds a lot like God, doesn't it? Well, things are about to get intense, because while explaining the process of clicking out to another reality, the document introduces the idea of God known as the Absolute. Between the Absolute and the material universe in which we experience our physical existence are various intervening dimensions to which human consciousness in altered states of being may gain access.
Is he saying that we have other options, that we can gain access to these places? It says, between the absolute... Oh. What's that term? The absolute? What could that be? Huh. We'll look at that in a second. And the material, quote-unquote, universe in which we experience our physical existence are various intervening dimensions to which human consciousness in altered states of being may gain access. Since the absolute is conscious energy in infinity, since the absolute is conscious energy in infinity, i.e. without boundaries, it occupies every dimension, to include the time-space dimension in which we have our physical existence, but we can't perceive it. Isn't that amazing? Dare to be great, Paula Gray. Dare to be greater. Dare to be awesome. Dare to be cool. Just dare. Just dare. Because what are we doing with our lives if we're not experiencing it? I mean, frankly, I have to wonder if we're living life, if in fact we're not trying new things, shifting it up. Adding more, taking away the things that don't work, just like our brain does in our sleep. You know what I'm saying? Sorry, the dinosaurs got in the way. By the way, orchestra, right? Yeah, something different. I like this. I'm not angry at the orchestra right now. And it's still everything out. By the way, thank you. Thank you for being open to this. Thank you for hearing. Thank you for seeing. Thank you for being in the dream with me. Because if we're here together, that means that maybe we found the flying pig. You know? Because this is suggesting that there's no accident. That there's no, unintended sharing. That there's no unintended time. Because time, according to this, is something we made up to give ourselves time. Which explains why Kronos was so pissed at the snake who found its tail. But that's another story for another day. We should dare to think beyond. We should try, I would hope, to do more than less. And to see ourselves as capable of being the gateway. Because apparently, we are born with it. There are no coincidences. No, my friends, I don't believe there are. Yes, happy Sunday to you. And Paula Gray, there's so much more of this.
Absolute is conscious energy in infinity, that is, without boundaries. It occupies every dimension to include the time-space dimension in which we have our physical existence, but we cannot perceive it. What is the Absolute? According to this document, the Absolute is mental energy in infinity that is completely at rest. This energy permeates everything and is responsible for everything. Let me explain. Since this is a reality of mathematical frequencies, of energy, it's a reality of waveforms. Now, these are not physical waves, they're immaterial waves of mind. Now, all waveforms, no matter how complex, can be broken down into simple, basic waves known as sinusoids. In other words, sinusoids are the building blocks of reality. They make everything up. Think about Legos, for example. You can construct amazingly complex structures with simple Legos, but you can break down those structures into the individual basic blocks that make it up. The same idea goes for something like a brick house. The house is a complex structure, but you can break it down into its individual bricks. Well, the same thing goes for waveforms. Even a wave structure as complicated as the universe itself can be broken down into individual waves known as sinusoids. They are the building blocks of existence. The Gateway document is using the term the Absolute to refer to the infinite energy that gives rise to the entirety of existence.
You want to call it what we all are thinking? God. God is all energy at rest. So when I tell people that I believe in God, that's what I mean. I have absolute faith in all of us. People often think that I mean us, the physical being. And that's not what I mean. I mean the greatest invention that creation itself, the all, somewhere beyond, ever decided to have, which is us, and allowing us, which is why we should be thankful every moment of every experience, whether it's good or it's bad. Our ups and downs are part of this wonderful experience, part of our being, part of who makes us us. And whether it's good for us or good for the larger sense of us, does it really matter? Knowing that we're all here together, doing this because we love the experience, because the experience must be loved in order to have created a space to move and be. Because if we're all in that background layer of energy at rest, then we must have loved the activity enough to form what we now know as reality. And we must have built on top of other layers of concepts to get to this point, or this computational permutation, I would say, of variance, of balance. But we'll talk more about this.
In other words, the energy that is responsible for all creation. But get ready, because this goes even deeper. The term the absolute was popularized in the field of philosophy in the 19th century by philosopher Georg Hegel. So what is the absolute? Well, it's God, but nothing like the kind of God you'd hear about in religion. It's us. Let me explain. According to Hegel, reality is not material. It's actually structured mind. Sound familiar?
Yeah, really.
According to Hegel, the absolute is the ultimate reality and truth, and the entire process of evolution, the creation of the universe, and history is the absolute coming to know itself through itself. In other words, the absolute projects what seems like a physical world from itself, and then inserts itself into its own self-generated world as human beings. In other words, we are the absolute, experience the world that we generated. Now, the absolute isn't actually self-aware yet. You see, it doesn't do this knowingly.
Making the world. It's making the world. The world makes itself. Oh, Emily, what's happening? Hold on, let me turn that up for you. I got the angel singing for you. Oh, sorry. Emily, welcome, welcome, welcome. There's information. There's actual paperwork today. The scripture is written in the military report on the gateway process, and it includes the missing page 25. And in fact, underneath that is some other paperwork I'll show you here, which is includes the CIA abstract report on the Casimir mirror, which apparently allows you to travel through time and space without leaving home. And you can make one at home, apparently. Then I also have a PDF of the tests that were done on these things, some of the subjects, and also the information, which is a book about the unusual testing in science that the U.S. and the USSR both did in depth. And welcome. So glad you could make it. Thank you for being here, Emily. I appreciate you.
It's like it's asleep and dreaming, and unconsciously creates a dream world, and then inserts itself into its dream through human beings. And so it experiences its own world through humans, but it doesn't know that it's doing so. It gets lost in its own dream world. In other words, humans are the absolute, but don't know it. The absolute only becomes conscious when humans realize that's what they are. You are the absolute, but you don't know it. But you could. You could know it right now. You could begin to wake up to the reality of what you are. The reality that you are God experiencing its own world. and all of us are doing the same thing. The gateway process states, we have implied that this universal hologram is the finite embodiment in active energy form of the infinite consciousness of the Absolute. It is the title we assigned to that vast pool of energy in a state of perfect rest over which the physical universe is layered and from whence it comes. Our consciousness, therefore, is that differentiated aspect of the universal consciousness which resides within the Absolute.
The universal consciousness which resides within the Absolute. In other words, the Absolute is a container, just like our brain. What does it contain? All mass and energy at rest. An electronic value of static layer that contains us all, beyond multiple other veils, let's call them, of reality between here and there. But here is where the material layer begins. And we make that through the headset, our brain. That headset that covers our eyes and keeps us focused on what it wants us to see in the hologram that we project from our shared electronic layer. Yeah, it's pretty weird. But it's science. And at that point, that's what I have to give it the credence, because this isn't even new. I've been hearing about this my whole life. And only now do we have the quantum physics to back up the larger aspects of this, and the brain science and the studies to be able to show that the inside of our brain is behaving when we dream just like it does when we sleep. And the difference is that when we dream, it connects more purposefully with that subjective reality and parses and cleans up and lets us practice and maintain a mental health and well-being, because it's just one other piece of the reality, that dream, just as real. Oh, absolutely, Emily. Yeah, I will, happy to, by the way, if you don't have time to download this stuff. And by the way, it's just super light reading. No, it's this stuff is so dry. It's so dry. Except for maybe the one at the top that's pinned right now. That one's really kind of exciting because it's so far out, and it's a military piece of paper, so it adds that extra layer of like, what is this guy saying, and why is it so clinical? Yeah, so if you look up at the top of the chat right now and scroll all the way up there's that stuff, but I will definitely put this stuff in the description afterwards for certain. Yes, absolutely, my pleasure. Because the book is the most interesting thing. I only got halfway through it, and I honestly, some of this is so far beyond me, and I'm into electronics and multi-schooled stuff, quantum physics. There's some stuff in there that I was having to do like research on the research. It got pretty heady. So just know that you're looking at real scientific research and real paperwork done by military experts and such. So I try not to bring hoo-ha, even though it sounds like hoo-ha. That's the beauty of it. That's why that's why I bring it to the. Did I see Techno? Did Techno arrive? Holy mackerel, Techno, welcome. So good to see you. So good to see you. And welcome. We are talking about dream states and the state of thought. And this is challenging stuff. But what was he saying? Our consciousness, therefore, is that differentiated aspect of the universal consciousness which resides within the Absolute. We are a shared reality, and our consciousness is parsed and shared from the Absolute, aka God! Free your flying pig. That's why we are the ministry of the flying pig, because you got to be able to stand out on a limb a little bit here and give it some credence and suspend your disbelief, because I'm talking about quantum physics interpolated with psychonautics, dreamnautics, and so many other concepts and philosophies and sciences that, frankly, the only way I could approach this is by finding all of the government military information and the corresponding scientists and or interesting folks to talk about this. So let's get through the rest of Morg's stuff. And by the way, the reason why Morg is challenging is because he actually has a cult of his own. So I only share this is that in that he describes this document better than anybody else did. Out of all the information, the rest of them are like 4 hours long. He nails it in 22 minutes, which, by the way, is the perfect cycle of a aronmsound. This is why the dark occultists want to control our mind. Yes, they know this. Those at the top of the Ben, they know this. The secret knowledge of the 33rd level, they know this, quote unquote. It's not secret knowledge, it's something we all know. The secret is that the veil got pulled over the rest of humanity's minds, and we were told that all of these thoughts and dreams that we have, they aren't real. That's not life. Why would they do that? Well, my friends, because they want you to ignore your flying pig. But here's the point where I may preach to you for but a moment. Please put your hand out to your friend next to you, to those who might not believe that they can be more, that they can free the love from inside them, that they can be with all of us as one in freeing the silly, in freeing the absurd, in freeing the wildness that is the flying pig. I think they got that out of the way. Yes. Yep, exactly. Create a mark of those who may not be aware, and keep those who aren't aware unknowledgeable.
Human consciousness is able to separate from physical reality and interact with other intelligences in other dimensions within the universe, and that it is both eternal and destined for ultimate return to the Absolute. The document then goes on to explain exactly what Hegel proposed, that is, that the Absolute projects itself to explore itself and comes to self-awareness, self-conscious knowledge of itself. In order for the Absolute to attain
you get what he's saying there is the reason that this is happening is because the Absolute wants to know itself, and that's us. The maladies of life, the ups and downs, the struggles and the joys, the constant revision, the constant slight adjustments. That's the computational factor playing out. That's us being the avatar for ourselves en masse. Why would we do that? Well, we would do that to find a better option, a better answer in each and every variance. Why? Well, it says self-consciousness. In order to attain self-consciousness, and then perceive that self-consciousness. I think, therefore I am. It may be the root of everything, isn't it? Seem like that? That hologram that is projected from the consciousness is a mirror of the Absolute in infinity, meaning that forever and ever and ever, beyond our wildest dreams, the Absolute is attempting to perceive itself. So that means in order to encompass all this, a huge amount of energy is being expelled to look in a mirror. And if light and matter and energy, they're all the same, they're all made up of the same stuff, they're all basically reflections of one another, and these are being perpetrated from the perception of the all itself, then that makes sense why the Kosmarov mirror is a thing. But we'll get to that in a moment, folks.
Consciousness. The consciousness of the Absolute must project a hologram of itself and then perceive it. That hologram is a mirror image of the Absolute in infinity. still exists outside time and space, but is one step removed from the absolute and is the actual agent of all creation, all reality. Then, on that very sentence, just as the gateway document is explaining exactly what the absolute is, how it comes to self-consciousness through itself, and that this is the true force of creation that religion has believed to be God, the next page is missing. Page 25 is not there.
Ah, but I have provided for you page 25. This is how I love my friends. I would not let you go with an unfinished script. No. You should have all of the information at hand. And by the way, when I said that the Monroe Institute put this up, it's because this gentleman and his organization bugged the frick out of them to get them to provide. And finally, after some time, after the document had been declassified, by the way, and the government had been bothered for it, the Monroe Institute said, why don't we just put it up? What's the matter? What's going on? So there you have it. It's actually pinned up there, the document he's talking about. And this document on page 25, what does it say?
25. The question is, what is on page 25?
Yes, I
Was
asked
something
that.
about it too shocking to include? First, the missing page
not
heavily
really. I think we
implies
already
this
talked
information could unite the world religions. It states, the absolute fits the Christian metaphysical description of the Holy Spirit. Finally, our description of the universal hologram, the torus of creation and evolution, is neither new nor original. Its use as the figure of the universe, of creation, developing, and evolution is found in various stylized representations in virtually every religious system of antiquity, whether of Eastern or Western derivation, whether it's the stylized labyrinth once popular in the Hellenic world, the spiralized version of the Hebrew tree of life, or its Hindu counterpart, or the Chinese spiral through the fourfold powers. The ultimate meaning is the same. Mystics the world over, it seems, have perceived the universal hologram in the same spiral form and have incorporated that intuitive knowledge in their religious writings from antiquity to the present.
You surprised? We all believe the same stuff, we just have been coming at it from a different manner, and that most of the physical reality, the issues within it, and the disagreements over these belief structures are the minutia, fighting off the fact that we all believe in the same silver spiral, in the same three roots, in the same tree of life. That Allah, that Yahweh, that the nine, that the Hindu gods, that all of these things could be projections and incredible stories we tell ourselves so that we can describe what we are in the waking world. Because at our root, at our base, in our core, we know we're all one. But some would have you believe that we're disassociated, disconnected, not the spirit, until some later time. As if we should just collect a receipt and not experience the information and not add more in the background. So keep in mind, there are people who have always known this information. It's in mysticism, as he said, back to the beginning of time. But now that we've gotten here, and I've gotten you all the way down, deep into the rabbit hole, now we're going to talk about the person who wrote the Gateway Process real quickly.
The CIA for the missing page. FOIA requests have been made. Petitions have been created.
Oh, yeah, and the
all
missing
trying to
page.
get the CIA to release page 25. The CIA insisted they don't have it.
Sure they don't.
But in 2021, Vice published an article about the Gateway
Kenties told
document
us
and mentioned the
ages
controversy
ago.
around the missing
Nobody wanted
page.
to listen.
A few days
Dr.
later,
Cultus,
the Monroe
this is-
Institute released the complete report, including the mysterious page 25.
What's on it?
Well, I've linked to the complete document below. But the gist is this. McDonald says that no matter what religion or culture you're born into, the gateway process could be a valuable tool, if not the most valuable tool ever designed to help a person truly understand themselves and the nature of the universe itself. He says ancient mystics seem to understand the truth about the universe intuitively, and the gateway process confirms this. Everyone on Earth is part of a collective consciousness, all placed here for the same purpose, to accumulate experiences, to learn from one another, and ultimately take that knowledge back to the energy from which we all came. He says that if we could become aware of this universal hologram, we could free ourselves from the prison of our individual lives, and finally realize that at our most basic level, we're all the same.
In a military report?
Right. Colonel McDonald does eventually get back to the practical use of an out-of-body experience with respect to military strategy and intelligence gathering. But when I read his report, I feel like he gets back to business because he has to. Otherwise, this document reads like he believes in this process and believes it could really help people.
Interesting how this page was dropped by the CIA, huh?
Yeah, the message of peace and unity was conveniently absent from the CIA's file. Now, I don't know if that was an accident, but I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and say it was. But accident or not, I agree, it looks bad. McDonald ends his report by recommending the Army take specific steps in pursuing the gateway process, but they should move in phases. He recommends that they use the gateway tapes to learn how to synchronize their brains using hemisync, then learn to induce the state at will. And once trainees can do this, they should learn to achieve an out-of-body experience for remote viewing. He even gives some practical steps on how to verify the information being viewed is accurate. He encourages anyone learning the process to pursue self-knowledge and remove any personal prejudices that could be blocking their progress. The ultimate goal is patterning, that the military should learn to adjust reality for what he calls practical application.
That doesn't sound good.
It doesn't. When you read the Gateway report, you get the sense that Colonel McDonald could be trusted with this knowledge. But the United States military, I don't know about that. Now, you could say the U.S. only uses its military power for national defense.
You'd be wrong, but you could still say it.
Either way, I don't think any military or any government could be trusted with the gateway process. My hope is that as soldiers learn to access these different states of consciousness, they learn, as McDonald did, that the true nature of the universe is unity, not conflict.
You're quite the optimist.
No, he's the realist.
If none of this makes sense to you, really, it may already be too late. Too late. May already be make sense to you. None of this too late.
Welcome. I'm glad that I can. I'm sorry to hear that, Moby.
Welcome back, Norm.
And hopefully we can bring you some fun and joy.
You just don't understand, and then later you're really glad they happen.
And some insight into life.
Anyway, here's
and
something
to the way we dream.
Really like, won't he?
And the fact that dream is life.
There we go. Watch this.
Which, by the way, if you're wondering what I'm showing up here.
Shocking, indeed. We scientists call it polyscopic hypnovation, or a state of accelerated, unexpected events taking place in a perpetually delirious assault on the accepted and the unexpected.
I share this with you because this is one of the techniques that I use to break through and speak directly to the inner source.
And dreadful muddle for Norman Jones.
And that inner source is us.
Designed to evolve mankind.
And I'm using a little piece of the gateway technology that I had learned years ago. That's called polyscopic hypnotation, where I separate the two consciousnesses and get to the id. And I'm sorry to hear that, Moby. And we're here. We're here if you need. Although we are parasocially connected, just know that you're thought about, and that we know you're there. And if you need to speak to somebody, I know that there's a whole bunch of people that give a damn out here. So, including myself. So, anything you need. That's what we're here for. We gather together for like minds, and for the fact that
We believe
if we don't give it air, it does.
the broadcast.
And that's the whole point. It's taking this flying pig out into the world, which is a sense of love, a sense of silliness, a sense of happiness, and you know, that's why I share Shadow Vision quite often. But now let's see what Neil deGrasse Tyson has to say.
Where you can simulate a world so perfectly with life forms, humans, so well that you can recreate every single neurosynaptic thought you could have, but now you're in the simulation on the computer.
So,
including the perception of free will.
Well, there you have it. Because then, so now you would have enough computing power to imbue the Sims inside of the program with all of the human traits that we possess now.
Correct. Not only our human traits, but the world.
But the world.
The world itself.
Right.
And you don't have to have all the world existing there at all times.
Right.
That might be an unrealistic amount of computing power.
Right.
You just need
enough of the world that they see around.
That they see around.
Libby, by the way,
So
there is every once in a while there'll be a thing that comes through. Hold on a second, it's the Streamlabs. If you scroll up, it says Stream Avatars Extensions right there. And actually, Libby, if you'd like to see, I've said this probably like 20 times now, I apologize, folks. But up at the top of the chat, including the military report on the Gateway process, that includes page 25 that was missing, from the Monroe Institute. Underneath that is the abstract report on the Cozumir Mirror. I'm sorry to hear that. And, you know, that's not a good thing. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's making amends makes a difference, but you know, that's a tough place to come back from. And you know, so accountability, we can change from that so long as we learn. And it's I'm sorry to hear that. That's no good for anybody. So up at the top, by the way, I'm sorry to segue to this, Libby. There's paperwork and the scientific reviews and a bunch of interesting reading, if you're interested at all, in the background of what we're covering today in dreams and life being real dreams, and that dreams are life, and that we have the ability to change not just our behaviors, not just our attitudes or our world. We have the ability to change everything. Everything, apparently. And that's one of the things that the Gateway... yes, the Helix machine. Yeah, isn't that amazing how it's interspersed in our cultural... institutions, just in the background. Even H.G. Wells. There's a lot in H.G. Wells. I mean, like, a lot of this stuff is, we know this. We know this stuff because it's us. We've just been conditioned to not believe in you and I and we as one. And frankly, when I say that, I mean it. I think that there's a whole lot of work that's been done to make us forget who we are over and over and over again. And I don't think we deserve that. I don't think we deserve that at all. I think we deserve better, right? Is that just me? I don't know. Let's keep moving. See what else. See what one of my favorite scientists in the world, by the way.
Start digging, and
that's so funny.
And haven't put the Earth there. There's a flag that goes up in the programmer, and they say, need more Earth. So they put Earth beneath you while you can keep digging.
It's like the Truman Show.
Yeah, for example.
Right, where he has like just a casual
Minecraft,
conversation.
you can build stuff with
Minecraft, right. Oh, that is Minecraft.
Right, okay.
God, that guy's a brilliant genius. Okay.
So, and we went to the moon. It's okay, let's make sure the moon is there.
Right.
Okay.
You know,
maybe that's why we can't travel faster than the speed of light. Because if we could, we'd be able to get to another galaxy
before they could program it.
Did you get what he's saying? He's talking about how
our computing power is growing rapidly.
Right.
We create simulations of worlds. We have video games with characters that are inside the video game.
Right.
Imagine a day where you can simulate a world so perfectly with life forms, humans, so well that you can recreate every single neurosynaptic thought you could have. But now you're in the simulation of...
Yes, and this is the thing is what we were talking about earlier, Libby, is the fact that the brain is essentially a headset that keeps us from seeing the unfiltered everything. And the unfiltered everything has multiple layers to it as well. But in the background, the Gateway Report up here that I'll unfold for you, which is a military report on the Gateway process, which is using the brain, using our being, using the headset to break out of the headset and go beyond the physical constraints of reality. And that is more us than we are this. But without belief and shared belief, nothing renders around us. And we have the physics to prove that now. In fact, there was a Nobel Prize handed out for that exact concept. Theory. Mathematics. It's pretty astonishing. So yes, it's crazy. It's wild. That's why I started the show off saying, I'm going to challenge folks. Today is a challenging subject. It's hard because it says that we're God and that God is us and that we should have reverie for God because we are it. Everything is it. Not just one, everything. Have respect for everything because it's part of this massive beauty. This dream we allow ourselves to figure out the better options. Oh my gosh, it took so long for the orchestra to finally break down. I wonder what it did. Thank you, orchestra. Let's DJ, I was ready for this. Could you kick it in, please? Abstergo Industries. Oh yeah, the metaverse, Paula. The metaverse. And he's going to actually talk about this before I hit the orchestra back up again.
Computer.
So,
including the perception of free will.
Well, there you have it. Because then, so now it would have enough computing power to imbue the Sims inside of the program with all of the human traits that we possess now.
By the way,
not only our
Geek Surgeon, when you start going back in the information, you start looking at the industrial complex behind it and the companies. That's where it gets really interesting, really weird, and they start coming to dead ends. By the way,
human trait,
but
the world itself,
right?
And you don't have to have all the world existing there at all times,
right?
That might be an unrealistic amount of computing power,
right?
You just need
enough of the world that they see around them.
Right. So you want to start digging, and
that's so funny.
And haven't put the Earth there. There's a flag that goes up in the programmer, and they say, need more Earth. So they put Earth beneath you while you can keep digging.
It's like the Truman Show.
Yeah, well, for example.
Right.
Okay.
Cool.
Or the Minecraft, you can build
or
stuff.
Minecraft.
Right.
Oh, that is Minecraft.
Right. Okay.
God, that guy's a
let me look at you.
So we went to the moon. It's okay. Let's make sure the moon is there.
Maybe that's why we can't travel faster than the speed of light. Because if we could, we'd be able to get to another galaxy
before they could program
that galaxy.
You know what you're saying? We can't get ahead of light because
so much fun.
Hasn't put it in yet.
So the programmer put in that limit.
Put in the limit
because that's the fastest they can get.
We can't program fast enough. So we put in a limiter. The speed of light is a limiter so that you can't get to the next thing before we build it.
All right, so let me finish. That's good.
Go
That's
ahead.
good, Chuck.
All right.
So let me finish this. So now that world evolves and they develop computing power.
Right.
And they say, we want to play video games.
So now we're going to make a world.
So then they make a world and they have sufficient computing power that they invent to create a whole universe within their computers.
Okay.
And then
they make a world.
And then they make a world all the way on down.
Right.
It could be hundreds, thousands, billions, infinite.
All right, so far this sounds like it still works.
That's fine. So now close your eyes, throw a dart. Which of these universes are you going to land in? The first one that's real or the gazillion that are not?
Well, yeah.
Just statistically. Okay.
Am I drinking when we're playing this darts game?
Speaking of metaverse,
then you're missing
everything.
So
there's something called Bayesian statistics where you're allowed to introduce information that you already have available to you, even if you didn't measure it to be true. So we establish
so you
the
understand what that
likelihood
means?
that
You're allowed to add in information that you perceive, even though if you're not absolutely certain of its truth or fact in the situation, because it is still valuable anecdotal information to fill in the picture, and it may fit a piece that you don't have yet, like a puzzle. Bayesian statistics.
They will have the power to do this.
Right.
And then that factors into these statistics.
Okay.
So there's 1 in a zillion, you're the real universe, and 999 zillion to 1
That's your simulation.
simulation. That convinced me. And I don't want to be convinced. I didn't like it, and I was just begging for somebody.
Yeah, it hurt my feelings.
To give me an argument
can I tell you that
was
it just hurt my
cogent
feelings.
enough.
It really did the first time.
To undermine that entire reason.
Like I've been believing
and I just came
some
across.
bullshit that somebody told me.
Okay. It's a good friend of mine, Rich Gott.
All right.
He was a colleague of mine back when I was at Princeton.
By the way, this
deep thinker, likes calculating the ends of things.
Nice.
With Bayesian statistics. He's heavily quoted in this book, The Doomsday Calculation. And William Poundslow is a smart guy unto himself. And I am now convinced.
Now you're convinced.
Are you ready?
Okay, go ahead.
What do all these So here is what convinced me we're not in a simulation.
Okay.
Are you seated?
All right, I'm seated.
Are you?
For
Hold
a
on.
few hours, but thank you anyway. I won't be
All right.
interrupting anymore.
What do all those simulated
you're more
universes
than
have in
welcome.
common?
That's I mean, we interrupt the show all the time. I love taking it on a right turn. We're all here together. We have all the time that there is time because we make time apparently based off of this. So we're good. You're good, and we care. And no, you're good. And you got your smokes on. You get your smoky on. Hang out. We good. You're not interrupting at all.
They have the power to simulate themselves.
That's what I'm saying. They're simulations.
No, they have the power to simulate themselves.
Right. Oh, okay. Yes.
That's what they all have in common.
Make a simulation.
They have that power.
Exactly.
To simulate themselves exactly.
Sounds
do we have that
pretty
power
familiar,
now?
huh?
No, we don't.
No, we don't.
Which means
But
that
we do.
we can't send it.
See, what he's not including is the fact that we already do. That we are simulating ourselves in ourselves. Based off of the, let me call on back up. Where am I? Oh, there I am. Based on, hi. Sorry. Based off the fact that, I bet you I know what's going on here. There's just, there's a lot happening. There's a lot happening here. Where am I? There I am. So, based off the fact that we are dreaming reality, and reality is being dreamt in a shared conceptualization so that we can perceive ourselves with a sentience that we've created in the form of a holographic response so that we can feel and experience it. Well, it's not that we're not real. No. In fact, we're very real. Very real.
And we can't send ourselves into the future as a simulation.
Because we don't have that power yet.
So we can't continue the chain.
So either we are the real one,
right?
Or we're the one in the chain that's still evolving to try to then make a simulation within their own world.
Yes.
So the odds of us being a simulation goes from a gazillion to 1. I mean, to the likelihood of
right.
gazillion, all right?
It flips.
It flips 50-50.
Wow.
And I'm good with that. That changes my life completely.
Yeah.
Okay? And no longer are your kids going to say, Dad, it doesn't matter. We're in a simulation anyway. No, you got an argument. You have a rebuttal.
Exactly.
Now, a quick one.
I have to do my homework.
No, it's real.
Go ahead.
It's real.
Maybe
folks.
these simulators have a side activity where they like reminiscing about days before you could simulate.
Huh. Imagine that.
That would be us.
That
So
would
now
be
we're
us.
Donkey Kong.
Donkey Kong.
We are a reality
We're classic.
by the way.
Classic gameplay.
Yeah, see?
So maybe we're just entertainment, like a historical exercise.
Right.
That's possible in principle.
Oh.
However, let's look at our own conduct with that regard.
Are you
I think of a
stretching
movie
yet? Are you
as a
stretching
simulation,
yourself
just
out? Are you
for
getting
the sake of
thin?
what's
Are
the
you
kind of
getting
conversation?
wide?
What's the kind of
What really happens?
Ask yourself.
Ask yourself.
How many movies have been made in a time before we ever knew how to make movies? Relative to movies made in the era where we know how to make movies. You can do the numbers. It's small.
Oh,
yes,
sure.
the Spartacus. There's the OK Corral.
Three Musketeers.
Those exist.
That type of stuff.
Okay?
Okay.
If we are any measure of the incentives of creating simulations, which all we can do with movies at this point, then they might have some historical thing, but there's way more interesting things and stories to tell in the era of simulations that exist post-simulation.
Right. Yeah.
So even if there are some period pieces that we might be, still most of these would be universes made after they could simulate themselves.
Yeah, because that's
our movie making habits are any indication of anything.
So the chances are we're not a little offshoot, like a little side project.
Yes, we could be. Just statistically, it's not likely.
Because
we're throwing darts.
But we have.
And most of the stories they're going to simulate
we have video games.
are going to be the ones that
movies. We have
that are in the era of
black holes
the time they could simulate
perpetrated
themselves.
inside
So that still brings us back to we're probably either the first or we're on our way to being the next.
On our way to being the next. That's
more
correct.
likely.
One of the other.
That's more likely than any other possibility here.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I can now rest well at night.
Yeah.
So no simulation.
Yeah,
no, it's a
I'm
simulation.
Good. I think I'm real. I think you're real. I
just
think we're good.
Real.
Well, real recognize real. So yes.
I love what he says here, by the way.
That expression. Real recognize
real. Recognize real. There you go.
Chuck, this bump on
boom,
that.
Boom.
Star Talk. Yeah. Signing out.
Anyways, one of my favorite quantum physicists, and you know, that basically brings around the whole idea. And I'm gonna play for you one more time something that I do every week, because I think it's important that we remember that this is a thing. It's a technology I use. Sorry, we're not looking at you. I gotta look up, actually. Look up this. Very important because of this. Oh, and of course I'm in part 2.
Shocking? Indeed. We scientists call it polyscopic hypnodation, or a state of accelerated, unexpected events taking place in a perpetually delirious assault on
is
the
happening
accepted and the unexpected.
On a regular basis, folks. If it's anything that I send you off into the world with today, it's the memory, it's the remembrance that this headset is kept on us. One, initially by ourselves, so that we can perceive and learn from the world around us, which is nothing more than a dream, apparently. You can read for yourself. And I'll add the documents to the about in this video shortly after we're done. But notice that I also bring this up at the end, because polyscopic hypnodation is the science of keeping you unaware. It's what brings the concepts that morph people's minds into negativity. It's what focuses the agendas of commercials, television, and mass media. It's what governments and religions and beliefs do by bombarding us with logic that may be unsensible and disconnected from the larger reality. It is the polyscopic hypnodation, hypnosis through a bombardment on the senses. Whether you're driving down the street and it's the advertisements around you, or it's just the cacophony of life. Don't let it obscure the headset. You have the ability to take it off. And I've given you the tools so you can build your own mirror that we didn't even get into. We didn't even get into the Cosmos. You know what? Let me bring that up, because I have that up. Let's do one more thing before we leave. Let me bring up the Cosmorov mirror, because that's some weird stuff. Just before we go, let me see if I've got that on tap. I thought I did. Maybe it's gone already. I've got too many pearly things. Why do I have so many pearly things? Sorry. Yeah. Twitch simps. What is going on here? Oh gosh, don't make me look for the Cosmorov mirror. Yes, Kozarev mirror. Oh, here we go. That's why, because it's a...
This episode, Nikolai Kozarev isn't exactly a household name, but in the early 20th century, he was a prominent Russian physicist whose innovative and controversial theories are still debated today. Kozarev made discoveries in astrophysics that were at first rejected but later proven true. In 1958, he reported volcanic activity on the moon. At first, this claim was dismissed by the scientific community. Later, the Apollo lunar missions proved Kozyrev was right.
Thank you. Thank you, Paul.
Moon landing was fake.
Well, the volcanism was photographed by unmanned
Thomas
missions.
Dolby's
to the moon.
definitely in that crew of folks, by the way.
But later confirmed when astronauts brought moon rocks back to Earth.
Fake! They filmed the moon landing on a soundstage in Burbank, California. The rocks are probably from the parking lot or some hippie
That's why he's got the
hiking
tinfoil
trail.
hat.
Volcanic
Let me-
rocks.
Yes.
Let me
In
get
Burbank.
my Cynthia
Yes.
G.
Near the movie studios.
I'm sorry, what do they call it?
Yes.
Anyway, Kozyrev conducted
I can't remember the
extensive
name
research
of it. When
on variable
you take somebody
stars,
else's-
stars that change
there we go.
brightness.
That's better.
He claimed stars emit torsion
feel
fields,
better
an
now.
idea that was controversial. Now, torsion is a cornerstone of
See, the waves
Kozyrev's
almost got
work.
to me.
And if his theories are proven correct, he might have solved, well, everything. Torsion, in simple terms, is the twisting of an object due to an applied torque,
Can't
like
get
wringing
me
out
now.
a wet cloth. That's torsion in
my
action.
Sinji
In
wig
theoretical
on.
physics, torsion is the twisting of space-time itself. You've heard of Einstein's theory of
Gotta get my
relativity,
bangs on.
which describes gravity as not a force, but as the warping or curving of space and time by mass and energy. Now, this is always shown with the rubber sheet example. Imagine a rubber sheet stretched out, that if you
So,
put a bowling
this is
ball on
how
it, representing a
dark
massive
matter works.
object like a planet or a star,
This is
it'll create
why-
a dip or curve in the sheet. Then if you
Sorry for
drop
the style,
marbles
man.
onto the
Sorry for the
sheet,
style.
representing smaller masses, they roll toward the bowling ball. That's general relativity. Now, the Einstein-Cartan theory upgrades this theory with a new feature, torsion, where the rubber sheet or space-time can be completely twisted. And to understand torsion, imagine you're
we can add
holding
more
one
of the
end of a
knowledge about
slinky.
how the
What
fabric
walks
of reality
downstairs,
works.
a loner in pairs, and makes a slickety sound. A spring, a marvelous thing. Everyone knows it's slinky.
Great, now that's going to be in my head all day.
It's fun for a girl or a boy.
Anyway, if you pull the ends of a slinky or a spring, it doesn't just bend, it also twists. In a similar way, the Einstein-Cartan theory proposes that the
I think we've
fabric
seen
of
this video
space-time
many
doesn't
times. I
just
have that video.
curve due to mass and energy, it can also twist. This twisting, according to Einstein,
Which is also
comes from the
why-
spinning of subatomic particles.
Well, there we
But Kozyrev said that torsion is not caused by particles, it's caused by time. Stick with me. Mainstream science says space is empty, but Kozyrev disagreed. He claimed there's an invisible medium that fills the universe that he called the ether. The idea of the ether has been around since ancient
have you
times,
heard me talk
but was
about the
mostly
ether before?
abandoned after 19th century experiments failed to detect it. But just because it wasn't detected doesn't mean it's not there. Think about birds flying in the air or
Yeah.
fish in the water.
Or the
These
vibrations
creatures
coming
need
out of
mediums to
speakers.
live and move.
I prefer not to be called a creature, but I won't be a snowflake about it. Go on.
So, what about light traveling from a distant star to your eye? What medium does it move through? Well, mainstream science says it moves through nothing. Kozyrev said that's impossible. The medium is the ether. But the ether is not a static, passive medium. It's dynamic and interacts with everything.
Everything.
And time
It
is
interacts
not a
with
passive dimension.
everything.
Time possesses energy and structure. And this time energy flows through and interacts with the ether. Just like a school of fish creates waves and ripples in water, time creates ripples or waves of torsion in the ether.
Hey, it's not the size of the fish that counts, it's the motion of the ocean. You know what I'm saying, fellas?
Kozyrev believed time is a physical force, actively participating in the universe's existence. Time is the heartbeat of the universe. It creates energy that impacts matter and space. And because time has a physical structure and energy, it could have different densities. Time can move
So,
at different
now that we're
speeds.
talking about the
Time can be
actual
sped up,
densities of what
slowed
we
down,
perceive as matter,
and can even move
and we
in
know
reverse.
that it's
We perceive
the
time
all-
as a river. In our daily life,
Oh,
we're
yeah,
floating
the
down this
Hecklefish
river
is the
with
best,
the
by
current
the way.
of
I love
time
Hecklefish.
carrying us
He has
from
his
the
own
past
channel, Emily,
through the present
called
and
Hecklefish,
into the future.
where he just
But a
sings show
river
tunes.
influences the landscape it
hilarious.
flows through and the life that grows around
sings
it
it
and in
badly.
it.
It's
Time
really
is the
funny.
same. Time energy influences everything, like gravity and electromagnetism. Time also influences physical matter, including the Earth and the people who live on it. Time energy
if we know
influences
the
the spin of
background,
galaxies and the orbits of planets.
energy layer.
Time energy feeds every star in the universe and influences
Is
the way they shine.
the all.
But time energy also influences the weather on Earth, the way plants grow, and how your DNA decided what color your eyes would be. Now back to our raft. If you're in a raft on a river and you do nothing, you'll float along with the current. But with a little effort, you can paddle the raft to go faster down the river. You can make the raft stop. Though it takes work, you can also go backward against the flow of the river. And Kozyrev said time works the same way.
Libby.
We only perceive time at our current point as we float along. But the river behind us is still there. We pass through it, but it's still back there. And the river ahead is there too. We're not aware of it until we get there, but it's still up there waiting for us. Time, like the river, is always there.
And interact,
past, present, and future all at once. When the torsion from time energy ripples through the ether, that information is transmitted instantaneously everywhere. The past, the present, and the future.
Now, this is very important. Why? Because now we know that there's an interaction between these elements and ourselves and the all, the absolute. The ether is this energy in between all these things, aka dark matter. It is 93% of all that is. And it stretches and pulls and creates layers of torsion that we slip upon. That reality, that light, that matter slips around it like an envelope. That envelope is the background absolute. We are sharing ourselves for further knowledge within a limited holographic spectrum that feeds itself. Yes, and as Libby says, through what we emit. And we are. So, I mean, to go beyond that, it's almost silly now. We are. Because the absolute is us. But the Kozyrev mirror, and I'm saying this wrong, his name is Kozyrev. Sorry. It's very important to know about this. Absolutely. Love to have you visit. The past, the present, the future, they are one. There is no difference between them. And that's what the Kozyrev mirror is about, is being able to, in your own room, step through that veil. And apparently it is very disconcerting. And I would say in the plans that I've seen, there's a couple of things that I would add to it that have been left out, which is that I would add a electronic layer to it, where essentially I would copy what Tesla did, and I would run coils in two different directions, so that just like Dr. Ronald Millett theorizes running polarity of physical energy at a certain both volume and rate, meaning like picking out a specific hertz value for that energy to run around the outside of what is a golden spiral that you sit in the center of. And you're supposed to basically sit inside of it and focus on the wall. And the wall, as you're inside of this device, is supposed to fall away from your point of view. And it is apparently very uncomfortable. And the first few times people use it, it makes them ill. But once you're past that, the sense of euphoria and floating, as I've read, is like being inside of the womb. But let's hear this.
Out to test his new machine,
Oh no.
Nikolai Kozyrev suddenly and mysteriously died.
You gotta be kidding me.
Kozyrev died before he got to actually truly test his machine. So
The
others
secret
did it for him.
research into psychic phenomena by American and Soviet intelligence is not so secret anymore. The most famous American program was
This is
Project
the Live
Stargate.
Files, if you're not
This
familiar with
program
Live Files.
explored various psychic abilities, but specifically concentrated on remote
Make sure to like
viewing,
and subscribe
which
to
is
them.
trying
They're
to
awesome.
visualize a distant target using only the mind. Now, the results of Project Stargate were mixed, but there were a few
Everything
reported
is.
successes. The
Not just
Soviet
us.
Union also engaged
Everything.
in psychic
Trillions
espionage,
of life
and they
forms.
invested heavily in
And
parapsychology and psychic phenomena. And the Soviets, according to
And many
declassified
of these
CIA
things we
documents,
likely
seem to have been
made
more
to
successful
give
in their
form to
attempts.
them.
The project we talked about earlier, led by Dr. Travamov and Dr. Kaznachev, was one of these successes. The program began in December 1990 at the Institute of Experimental Medicine of the Academy of Sciences, Siberian branch. The equipment was assembled at a facility in Dixon, the northernmost settlement in Asia.
So why
the
am I
main
actually
piece of
sharing the
equipment
Kozyrev mirror? Because the Kozyrev mirror is literally the mirror of our of the gateway process. It's the Russian version. Except theirs is very simple. It's very simple. You do have to be brave. You have to be brave to face the unknown. You have to be brave to buck a system that has us all believing that there is one idea, one concept, one limitation. If you don't do that, you don't fit into the tribe, and then you're screwed. And you can't make a buck, you can't get a job, you can't, because some folks don't want us all. By the way, I'm scooting around the. This is by accident. I'm blind, so the chats. Yeah, there's some folks don't want us to know more about being outside of the headset, and instead of being mad about it, folks just capitulate because they don't know that we can be more, that we are more, that we are trying to experience more. Yeah, it's actually a shocking scenario. Yeah. No, it is. I don't mind either, but it's a tough thing to take into consideration. And by the way, there's a video I watched this week about the accountability and responsibility and the weight of thinking one as one. And it's a deep thing. It's a deep thing, but we can't we can't I'm sorry, did I miss something? So we are one. We are all one in the same one? Yes. In the absolute. And imagine watching this one day when you go back in time, being some of the one. Yeah, but yeah, exactly. And then there's the conundrum of can we? And apparently we can, as you'll come to find out.
It's called a Kozyrev mirror, based on Kozyrev's research and patents.
And,
the mirror is a spiral-shaped metal structure the size of a small closet. It's designed to capture and focus psychic energy in the middle of the spiral. There, the occupant, called a psychonaut, embarks on their psychic journey. At least, that was the plan. As soon as the Kozyrev mirror was built, strange events started occurring in the facility and all over the town. And everything is documented in the book Cosmic Consciousness of Humanity by Drs. Kaznachev and Travamov. The book includes interviews with test subjects, transcripts of recordings, and illustrations of everything that happened during the study. It's really interesting and easy to read, and down below is a link where you can check it out for free. Now, as soon as the mirror was activated, the researchers noticed that around the device was an intense field of fear.
It's right here.
December 24th, 1990, Ape 1. Having entered the room, we felt a kind of emotional pressure, but we kept talking as though we didn't care about it.
In the reading
we
room
just
from the
couldn't
CIA.
keep standing around the mirrors. The fear was so strong, more like a wild terror that couldn't be explained.
Well,
it
yeah,
seemed
we
like
can
a real
explain the terror in the fact that their inner beings, the absolute of themselves, sensed that the headset was going to come off. And that must be a terrifying sensibility right before you go do this. And Libby says that she thinks the goal is to remember that you are one despite all that separates us. Yes. And there's so much that would add more to the headset to make us believe that there's just so much that absolutely defines the separation as absolute, instead of seeing us as the totality, as the absolute. It's amazing. It's amazing how much we've been sold down a river of our own, dream. That we don't even realize that we're in the dream and have control of the dream, and that we're the psychonauts of the dream for our own purposing, so that we can learn as a whole. Oh, it's got to be intense. The fear has to be intense. And I mean, if it's anything like when you suggest to somebody who is monotheistic and very steadfast about that there can't be something outside of their book or belief, that, you know, that same fear is palpable amongst them, that you're challenging their idea of reality, because essentially that's what you do in that situation. And I wouldn't put that on anyone, because that's a scary thing. you know? It really is. Anyways, what does he say?
We could touch. None of us had ever had such a feeling before.
By the way, that's a recreation.
This feeling of instinctual dread was described by some as something almost physical that you could touch.
Yes.
I had an unpleasant feeling. I felt cold and dizzy. My hands were trembling and my head grew heavy. Even the air of the room seemed different. The fear was so strong, it felt like a substance. It came from the Kozarev space and filled up the whole room.
At the beginning of the experiment, nobody wanted to go near the mirror.
Once we opened the door, we got scared. It was like coming into cold water. The shiver came up as we got closer to the mirrors. I felt my head grow heavy. As I approached, the fear grew so strong that I was close to running away.
Powerful bursts of energy suddenly appeared above the device. The researchers called them plasmoids, and the way they describe them, they sound like ball lightning. And outside the building, objects started appearing in the sky, and these were seen by people who worked at the lab, as well as residents of the town.
Coming to the lab at 8:30 a.m., I saw a red glimmering circle.
Is the images that people were being told to look at inside of the experiment were starting to hover above the lab. Why? Because the people outside were experiencing what's called lensing. Lensing is many faceted. It has a lot of different applications. But in one case, when a person is made to visually lens, their absolute is turned into the holographic display that it actually is. And they are amplified and turned into a convex lens. And we'll get into that. By the way, if you wonder about this, New Era, or anybody else, the documentation is here pinned in the chat. And that's on the gateway report process, including the missing page. And I'll close that back up. And all the way at the top of the chat, and I'll put this in the about later on. I keep saying this. I apologize because people join us. There is information about the Kozarev mirror, about the government report, that the abstract on the government report by the scientists who worked on it. I also have the paperwork from my Dropbox that I copied out because the identifier from the Library of Congress was just like 1,000 numbers long, buried super deep. And it's a scientific review of unusual research by both the Russian government from the 1960s through the 1980s, and also the U.S. government leading up into the late 90s. And we aren't bots. That's the beauty of it. No, none of us are bots. We're real. And we shouldn't feel like a bot. We are all as real gets, because the absolute is sharing everything in, let's call it the Akashic. It's the background. We share all that reality. We basically project, not from the outside in, but from a shared sense of the inside out. And we make reality as an agreement. Now, if you want to look at quantum physics, just look at the science. We were just talking about that, where protons and electrons, they do something different when you observe them than when you don't. They become a waveform, and the double slit experiment proves that. Reality is forming in front of us. Now, is it forming right now? No. It is forming at the beginning of time, meaning it goes back to the beginning of time in response to our observation, which means time doesn't really exist. It's something we've made to give this headset a perception. Now, are we reality classic, where we are the reality envisioning ourselves or making ourselves a simulation? Possibly, but most likely, as they were just talking about in Star Talk, most likely, folks, we are the permutation that is next in line to make a holographic display of ourselves, an absolute copy creation. And then it'll continue on and on. But every different reality does this. Why? Because we love to understand ourselves. We love to understand ourselves. So no, we're not a bot. Each and every one of us is our own individual self, fed by ourselves, which is beautiful. Frankly, I think that's beautiful.
Above the building, It was there for a minute and then gone.
At 5:10, I saw a UFO flying from the north. The object had the form of an ellipse, radiating red-white light. There were beams of light coming off the object as if it was searching for something. The UFO remained in sight for about 4 minutes, then the light went off and it was gone.
Suddenly I felt a kind of hypnosis. The feeling didn't last long. I saw a white glimmering object which looked like Saturn against the dark sky.
7 different UFOs were seen for months all over the area. Finally, some participants of the study worked up the courage to enter the Kazarev mirror. And that's when things get really strange. Here's how the first experiment works. An operator sits in a Kazarev mirror at the lab in Dixon. Another person sits in a mirror at the town of Novosibirsk, 1,400 miles away. The operator is then told to concentrate on a symbol and send that symbol to the receiver in Novosibirsk, and the results were surprising. On days when the Earth's magnetosphere was quiet, the success rate was between 0 and 10%. But when the magnetosphere was active, like during solar storms, the receiver could successfully detect the image being sent by the operator between 30 and 45% of the time. It seemed like human consciousness was somehow connected to the Earth's magnetic field. Now, this completely aligns with Nikolai Kozyrev's theory that sunspots and solar weather emit torsion waves that have far-reaching effects. And these waves influence many processes on Earth, from weather patterns to human consciousness. So another experiment was done. This time, 2 operators in 2 different Kazarev mirrors in 2 different cities would concentrate on sending images into the Earth's magnetosphere. Then, 5,000 participants in 12...
So there is a problem with that situation, unfortunately. Time and reality are self-healing. It may explain why the Mandela effect is at all. That we can't actually change what is to be. As a matter of fact, to change what is to be is apparently dang near impossible. That the agreement is as the agreement is, and it takes us all to change that agreement. And if it already has been, the conundrum is, would we know it wasn't after we've made it not? And the answer is no. And in fact, unfortunately, what ends up happening is a conundrum. A circle, a loop that you can't get past. And another reality diverts off from that. So just like the grandfather paradox, where if you went back and killed your grandfather, you wouldn't be born, so you would have never traveled back in time. This poses an issue. To get rid of the problems, when we come back, we may be in the timeline or the balance or the variance that has the change. But did we change the original timeline? Unlikely. And even more likely, we may be seeing the self-healing effect in that maybe people have already tried. But you can't change what is inevitable for us to promote and to move forward in whatever the learned experience the absolute is looking for. Because don't forget, that's a generalized agreement about time immemorial, about infinity. So there's a larger picture and a larger lesson that's trying to be learned. What that is, maybe that's the specialty. Maybe that's the special that we don't know. I think that's what we don't know. We can't know. We can't possibly. Yeah, unfortunately, it's a paradox. It's a conundrum. No matter what we do, another reality timeline will split off because the computational variances apparently are necessary for the absolute, according to this material. So,
countries around the world would try to tune into this energy and view the symbol being sent. When the magnetosphere was active, the success rate jumped to 95%. Not only did this shock the scientists running the experiment, but it also shocked the CIA, who had been watching closely.
Yeah.
And it turned out that children, specifically female children from spiritual and shamanic families, were extremely good at this. During one test, rather than thinking of an image, the mirror operator just thought of a number. The children were able to receive this number, look up the image, and draw what they saw. For symbol number 63, this is what they drew.
To make anything new. And if
And
it
for
does
symbol
change,
32,
we experience
this
it on that
was seen.
timeline. But the other options of ourselves will continue.
Over the
on.
next few months, volunteers learned to tolerate the Kozarev mirror device for longer periods of time. And some people stayed in for 7 hours or more.
Absolutely.
Being inside Kozarev's space, at first I felt my body shaking to and fro. I felt pressure from all around my head grew heavy. Later this feeling went and I felt so light.
And
it was like I was...
It does take group agreement, group observation. We can change anything we wish, but it takes those of us together to observe that. And there are some people who are incredible singular lenses, who can observe the world and observe the change from their perception. That's why the concept of magic. But not everybody has that. Not everybody has that code. Not everybody is that part. And it takes a group of us thinking positively for others to allow for that to happen. So please do think about me as a well-off streamer who just has tons of promotional money dumping on them so I can afford to build out my stages, and soon I will have a real choir and an orchestra. But these things do work. And I'll think for you that all of you are having love and life and a fabulous experience every single day, and that things are better than worse at all times. And seriously, I will, because parasocially, we're attached to one another through this electronic stream, right? And I can feel your energy essentially on the other side of it. I sense it. I sense that you're here with me. I know when there's nobody here and when there is, and I think we all kind of get that. So I think that if we think positively for others, and we see those things as real for others, we do affect change. But it's local. As we've come to find out, that things aren't rendered unless we're perceiving them. That's what one of the Nobel Prizes was won about this year. So. And now that we've gone down this chain of knowledge, this chain of experience within these videos that I've shown you so far, and we're ending off with the Kozarev mirror, which I almost forgot.
Coming out of myself.
Yeah, I think we
when
know
they were
pretty much
inside
now
the
that,
mirror, they started calling this Kozarev space.
But it
and when
takes
they were in
a
Kozarev
joined
space,
agreement
participants were feeling
between
and
us all.
seeing the same things.
And the
At first, I
ability to
felt my
allow
head grow
ourselves that
heavy.
agreement
It was
and
also
belief.
shaking a bit, and then it was gone.
Because
I saw
don't
people.
forget, we do have a headset stopping us from getting past to that point. And then we have belief structure and limitations and thoughts that other people, and tribalization that keeps us from expanding to that context of knowing each other as one. Because notice page 25 from the report, which is included in the one that I've given you all, that suggests that we are all one, that all religions and beliefs are based around the same innate knowledge that we're all one, that we are God, in an essence. But you don't have to believe that. You don't have to believe me. Oh yeah, absolutely. Get the tinfoil hats in your merch store. I was thinking about that actually. And what's funny is Y-Files doesn't sell them, which I think is hilarious. They should also sell tinfoil hats. Absolutely. Because I think that's what people picture when we start talking about these. Oh yeah, Emily, we were talking about the flying pig. Yeah, absolutely. Good call. I should open a merch store for that. Thank you. Yeah, I think that's what people imagine when we start talking about these things, that everybody should slap on a tinfoil hat, because how could this possibly be possible? Well, the U.S. government, the CIA found it possible. The Russian government found this possible. And yes, science has shown that females who come from a shamanic line do very well at this. And that would be a whole study in itself, and I'm sure that somebody's done something unfortunately terrible about that. Yeah, I don't even want to go down that thought line, because somebody, Yep. Everybody is on tonight. Yes, exactly. I would gather Mike's probably turning on right now.
Faces flickering in my eyes. Then I saw black clouds. Then it was like I was falling through a black hole.
they were falling
Almost
through a black
everyone
hole?
felt weightless, and then like they were flying.
I felt waves coming over my head. Then I felt like there was somebody else in the room. And then there was a series of images.
In their book, Travamov and Kaznachev included a chart of common experiences. Almost 90% of participants felt like they were flying. Most saw outer space, celestial bodies, and even UFOs. During longer sessions, another strange phenomenon was common: visualization and the manifestation of symbols. People started seeing symbols hovering in the air, and they're described as swirling and floating around the room. And each symbol emits an eerie glow like neon. But people weren't seeing these symbols in their minds. The symbols were appearing in the room. Even more amazing, people who were completely isolated from each other were seeing the same symbols. 2,000 distinct symbols were recorded. A linguist researched them and found that 80% of them came from ancient cultures. In fact, the most frequent...
So these people were being fed information from ancient cultures? Boy, that sure sounds like the Akashic Record. Boy, the Akashic Record sure sounds like the Absolute. Boy! Maybe there's something fucking to this. Beyond the scientific study, and the government interest, and the CIA's interest, and the actual constant historical references. Huh. Alright.
Symbols were from ancient Sumerian. The experiments continued for months and exceeded all expectations. Participants in the study who experienced Kozyrev space found that the effects lasted for a long time after leaving the mirrors. People were thinking more quickly, scoring higher on IQ tests. They had increased memory capacity. They were more creative. Some people had illnesses that were completely cured. Doctors Travamov and Kaznachev believed this technology was a breakthrough that could elevate all human consciousness if the technology was handled carefully and responsibly. The scientists were very aware that using Kozyrev mirrors to activate superhuman abilities could be dangerous. The CIA shared the same fear. There was also another issue that had them worried.
Imagine that.
It turned out that when people were in Kozyrev space, they weren't alone.
Nope. And that brings me to the last little piece. So, why is it important to know that we aren't alone? Because the Absolute isn't just us. We aren't the only beings. We aren't the only ideas. We aren't the only things making up reality. As a matter of fact, as I drop this beat, and I expand the orchestra out a little bit, I want you to remember that I've already shared this actually with you. But I'm going to go back to it. This is called DMT Entities Debate the Existence of Humans.
Welcome to another episode of Hyperspace Debates, the podcast
these are the entities
where we explore the mysteries of the multiverse and beyond. Today, we have two very special guests, Jester Entity and Mantis Entity, who will be discussing a topic that has puzzled many for centuries. We have two DMT entities from hyperspace who will be debating whether or not the humans who occasionally enter their realm are real beings or just a product of their imagination.
Thank you for having us on the show. This is a topic that has fascinated us for quite some time.
Yes, indeed. We have seen many humans come and go in our realm, and we are still not sure if they are real or just a figment of our imagination.
Well, let's get right to it then. Jester Entity, why do you believe that the humans who enter your realm are real beings?
Well, from our perspective, these humans appear to be just as real as we are. They have a physical form and seem to interact with us in a meaningful way. They have thoughts, emotions, and intentions just like we do.
But how do we know that they are not just a projection of our own minds? We are, after all, in a hyperspace realm where anything is possible.
That's a valid point, but I believe that the fact that they appear to have their own thoughts and intentions suggests that they are independent beings. We cannot control their actions. And they seem to have free will.
But what if we are just creating them subconsciously? Perhaps our own desires and beliefs are shaping their appearance and behavior.
That's a possibility, but it seems unlikely. The humans who enter our realm often have experiences that are beyond our understanding.
As they do we.
If they were just a product of our own minds,
as these entities,
how could they have experiences that are completely foreign to us?
That's a good point.
Thousands
Couldn't it also be
thousands of
possible that they are simply reflecting back to us our own beliefs and desires? Maybe we're projecting onto them what we want.
I suppose that's possible, but it still doesn't explain how they can access information and experiences that we
So
cannot.
as we are all one,
It's almost as if they are coming from a lower dimensional plane.
That's a fascinating debate. Unfortunately, we're running out of time.
because
Do either of you
they
have any
also
final
have a
thoughts on
headset
the
on,
matter?
as we do.
I think the bottom
It
line
is
is that
part
we may
of the
never know for
computation.
sure whether the humans
It's
who
part
enter
of
our realm are
figuring-
real or just a product of our imagination. But regardless, the
Imagination and
experiences we have with them are still valid and meaningful.
Yes, I agree. Ultimately, it doesn't matter whether they are real or not.
Body snatcher, yes.
What matters is that they bring a unique perspective and insight into our realm. And that is something we should cherish.
Thank you both for joining us today.
And that is.
This has been a fascinating discussion,
Something
and
I
I'm
hope
sure
we
our
all
listeners will
cherish.
enjoy it as much as I have. Join us next time on Hyperspace Debates as we continue to explore the...
So Hyperspace Debates, yeah, that's from the Josie Kins channel. Josie Kins is... there's a video after this by Dr. Andrew. It's 2 hours long. I'm not going to... Oh, dang, I accidentally touched it.
Hello, everybody.
So here is the... I'm going to leave you with the DMT Trip Simulator, which essentially is a simulation using thousands upon thousands of responses and images that Josie Kins, the DMT researcher, has built out with AI. And I think it's very fascinating because you'll see faces and you'll see many things as we leave today. But as I send you off with the flying pig in tow, that I hope you have made sure to pull out of yourself, because it's important that we do it. It's important that we find ourselves and free it. Free the happiness, free the hedonism, free the wildness, free the ability to be more than less. To know that this layer is just beyond the headset. And it can be scary, but there's 3 or 4 of them before we even get to the absolute, apparently, according to the research and science. And the paperwork I've left up here in the military report. Much less the books about the Kozarov mirror. We stand in a reality we make for each other. So all I can ask is that we make it in love for one another. And remind ourselves and each other that frankly, the world is better. The universe is better. The dream is better. When we know we are one, that love is one, that good and bad are one, that up and down are one, that you, I, and we have no difference, but in what we seek to perceive, in what we seek on a higher plane to learn. And that yes, we free ourselves from our own misconceptions. I ask nothing but that you free that inner pig. Because that which brings us joy can also bring us life and friendship and experience. And it can teach us what is the low so that we can reach what is the high. So appreciate that the living dream the waking life, the dreaming life is necessary, important, beautiful, and nothing less than us being the we and the absolute that is just beyond the headset that keeps us here, projecting our own lesson. To better what? To better be? That's what we should learn. That's what we can learn. But it's not even for us. For us, we get to experience the sentient life, that dream. And we're built perfectly for it. So appreciate one another. Love one another. Appreciate this dream. That is the life. That is the dream. And appreciate that we make every single moment of it, whether we choose to or not. That we have more in common than less. And know this, my friends, that as I head you out into the unknown, Paula, enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you. Oh, thank you. And please, everyone remember to keep it Mike TV in your prayers. Oh, geez, I did not know that. Holy smack. Yeah, I wonder if that's why I couldn't get in touch with him. I hope he's okay. Thank you for letting us know. The dream is real, folks, and we are the dream. The dream is life. Life is the dream. Hopefully I provided you something that you may not have seen before in a way you weren't thinking about it. Hopefully I brought you a little joy in your day. I'm your minister on the corner, your preacher of the wildness on Sundays here in the ministry of the Flying Pig. Hallelujah to you. And as I send you off into your day, may you be well as we are one, as we've now learned. Peace to you all. May you have a wonderful day. May the pig be with you always. And I hopefully can help you start a new week as you helped me. Together. As one. Yes, I do too, New Era. I'm going to actually text him and find out. And maybe he's online right now. I'm not sure. I got to go look. And thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here. And for being a part of the Ministry of the Flying Pig. We do this Sunday every week, 3 p.m. Pacific time. And even the AI stories will be on later at 9 p.m. For about 2 hours, telling a story about, well, whatever comes to mind to start with. And I prompt her, and she tells herself, she speaks to herself for 2 to 3 hours at a time. It's amazing. And basically, you get the reverse of all the visuals in all my week. And then, of course, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I have my show at 4 p.m. We'll be back on regular schedule this week, as I don't have any production this week that I have to be at. So, may the blessings of life, may the pig that flies from each of us free you from yourself. May the headset come off. May you see the internal and the external light that is all of us, as we are one in the absolute. I'm aronmsound, your preacher on the corner, screaming out that crazy shit. Peace to you all, and may your weekend be wonderful, and may we all be as one. And don't forget, at the end of the day, all I can ask you, don't forget, look up. Hey folks, thank you so much for being here at the Ministry of the Flying Pig. Don't forget, I'm collecting about $100. Well, actually, it's actually at $100. Oh my God, I got to take the money over to the daycare. Thank you, Emily. I didn't see that. That's amazing. Emily, woo! Yeah! Awesome. We met the $100 mark for the daycare center in the locals. that's really awesome. It's all local volunteer and basically everybody just bringing toys over to them. So that's awesome. Thank you so much. That is amazing. We met our first goal. By the way, you can also send me lunch if you feel like it. There's a button up there. Several different options. And then there's also socks and things that if you feel like sending me something, you can do that. But I'm more about the donating to the daycare. But, I do take stickers and socks. I love the socks. And there's lots of other things in there, because I don't make any money. Oh, hey! I'm aronmsound, as you well know, host of YouTube's wildly popular and clearly trending show, Look Up the Streaming Show. Today I am very proud to offer you our new program, Humaning for You. Today's topic, love. They say love makes the world go round, but honestly, sometimes love is just plain weird. Like the time my friend who fell in love with a lamp, he even named it Lucy, and he was never more devastated than the day Lucy burnt out. But here's the thing. Love doesn't make sense. It's not supposed to. It's something you feel in your heart and not in your head. And maybe that's the little moral philosophy that we can take away from my friend, is that love is weird, and we should embrace the weirdness, because life is too short for you to miss out on loving the things that make you happy. Oh, hey! I'm aronmsound, as you well know, host of YouTube's wildly popular and clearly trending show, Look Up the Streaming Show. Today I am very proud to offer you our new program, Humaning for You. Today's topic, love. They say love makes the world go round, but honestly, sometimes love is just plain weird. Like the time my friend who fell in love with a lamp, he even named it... I do concerts and shit. And anyway,